Greetings, everyone, and welcome to a wonderfully playful edition of Monster Party.
Monster Party!
Monster Party!
It's playful. It's down and dirty playful. It's awesome.
Down and dirty playful.
Well,
Wow.
Well, you know, like you know,
I am excited, really excited now about this topic.
Yes, I'm
because
really excited.
If you say that it's down and dirty, then it's got to be really down and dirty.
Oh my gosh! Well, I'm so excited. And who are you, sir?
I am Matt Weinhold.
I am Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
And this is a topic that's near and dear, close to our hearts.
Oh, sure.
And it really hits the core of who we are and what we do with a lot of our time
yeah, and money.
and money throughout our lives.
Oh,
and we've
gosh.
talked about this subject before, but we haven't really talked about in too much detail
Yes,
the inside view of it.
that's right.
And so the topic for this show
What
is
is our topic?
toy making.
Toy making. Making of toys.
We love toys. We
Real
love action
toys.
figures.
Playthings.
Playthings.
Collectible.
Or keep in a package and put on a shelf.
Or games, anything, whatever you want to consider a toy.
Yes.
We
Genesis,
love these
the
things.
genesis of
so,
toys.
but we love them, but where do they come from?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Do they come from God?
Yes. Or Santa? Or Santa God?
What
Yes.
magic brings these toys?
Right.
Yes.
What favor did we do for Jesus for him to bring us toys?
And when you, let's say you come up with a toy idea, well, how long does it take? Is it done in a couple days, in a week? Well, what goes on?
yeah, and what we want to know is from beginning to end, how does a toy start as an idea in someone's mind?
Yeah.
A concept, and how does it get from that to something that we're taking out of the package?
Right.
Well, you know, and I was thinking about this.
playing with.
Yeah, well, but you know, it's such a great topic. I mean, how could you find such a great guest? Who could we possibly
Who could we
get to help
possibly
us?
Who could we get?
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you who we got.
Who did we get?
He is the co-owner and CEO of Biff Bang Pow Toys. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Jason Lenzi.
Jason Lindsay!
Hello.
Mr. Toy Guy!
Hello. Good evening.
The Toy Man!
Good
Jason, you have no idea how happy I am that you are here.
Yes, you're like Santa!
Can I
Yeah.
just say how excited I am to be here? I know the show.
Say
I've
it.
known Matt for
Say it officially.
8,000 years, and it means a lot to be. Yes,
Awesome.
We have
But I
known each other for a long time.
A long time. I have a
Before
con-
Biff Bang Pow.
Oh, well before
Yeah.
this thing. Right?
No.
Yeah. But I
Yes.
should just confess, your introduction. I was under the impression we were talking about the making of the movie The Toy.
with Richard Pryor?
No,
With Richard Pryor.
Okay, wait a minute.
All the
Wait a
behind,
minute.
the, all the behind
sort
the
of-
scenes,
okay, hey,
Jackie
that's
Gleason.
sort of-
Ease
What
up, everybody. Do you have information about this?
That's sort of what I prepped for. So I
no.
feel really bad.
shit. That's our
right
show.
now. But I will
How
think
much?
about
how,
making the toys.
Jason, how much cocaine did Richard Pryor do to agree to be in the toy?
You know,
It's beyond. It's like, remember that opening
was
shot
paid
of
with
Superman
cocaine.
Krypton, just that big. It's that much.
Wow.
Okay.
The Richard-
Yeah.
the
So that's
Richard-
what those crystals were
Richard
made out
Donner.
of.
The
Yes.
Richard Donner cut
Yes.
of the toy.
Yes.
okay, well, you know, this is great to talk
Mostly
about.
cocaine.
It's great to talk about Richard Pryor and stuff, but I want to get
sorry,
back.
I'm sorry.
I want to get
Yeah,
back
I
to.
know. He is very excited. He wants to
the
know.
Theme. I mean, here
Yes,
you are. You
please,
are the
yes.
CEO of Biff Bang Pow, a toy company. I mean, I want to know. I mean, how does it happen? You brought some toys with you. Yeah, like I said, you were like Santa. You came with a big bag and you like dumped it on the table, and we're like clamoring
Yeah,
over it.
you are Santa.
to us.
You are tonight's
Yeah.
Santa.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah,
That's
so-
nice.
You bring these toys, and
very nice.
isn't it kind of an amazing thing where there was a time when you didn't have the toy company.
No.
And here
No.
we are, and there are toys that, if it weren't for you, would not be here at all. There's a thing right behind you right now, which is the Mystic Seer from Twilight Zone.
God, I love
that
that.
works exactly like the one
It's like a
in the
perfect replica.
episode.
How
Yeah.
did you do that? How did how did you get into this?
And that would not be here if it weren't for you. Thank you.
Now that you mention it, yeah, you're right. You're kind of right.
Okay, well, that's our show.
No,
All right.
So,
Thanks,
Jason,
everybody.
I want to.
This has been fun.
No, Jason. So I want to know. So how did you get into the whole toy
Yeah, how did
business?
this whole thing
Well,
start?
It's kind of how much time do we have? Well, how are we
Well,
for time?
give us first of all, give us a little bit of background about you. Who are you? What is your thing?
Okay.
What is your bag?
I am from the Twin Cities.
Okay.
I'm from St. Paul, Minnesota. I was born in St. Paul.
Okay.
Just like Terry Gilliam. So we
Wow, yeah, it's good company.
And I came out to LA in like 95 or so because I'd done some, acting and production work in the Twin Cities and came out here for voiceover and production work, etc.
You have a wonderful voice, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
like honey.
Oh, thanks. See me after the show. Okay. All right, because I'll wrap this up soon.
All right. Okay.
So as you do out here, and I'm pretty sure everybody here kind of understands this because of different hats that you wear and stuff. It's sort of you have to keep things spinning and
yeah, a
keep
lot of balls in the air.
a lot of balls in the air. You
Right.
can't just go, oh, I'm going to do this one thing, unless you're like David Lynch or something. You can just go, yeah, that's it, and I'm good.
Right, and you're just that
Right.
focused. Yeah.
And so in between, gigs or voiceover gigs or, producing gigs, I started thinking about what could I do that might earn something in between gigs like that, or while I was doing something else, it could be earning.
It's a great idea.
Do I open a coffee shop? Do I try to get a real estate license or whatever? Anyway, those were brief sort of ideas.
And you're like a big pop culture fan horse.
Yeah, you're like us, right? You're a monster kid.
right?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Sci-fi
no,
guy.
It's to me, this is all about. This is to me like a bookshelf or a movie cabinet or a CD cabinet or something. If you go into someone's home, well, CD, I already sound dated, but you know what I'm saying. And you go back in the day when you'd be on a date or something and you'd maybe go to the apartment and be like,
Sure.
a drink or coffee, and then and you look over at the CDs and you'd sort of go, oh, I gotta get out of here. Like,
Right.
this is
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
yeah.
You can tell a lot about someone by the stuff that they're into. I've always
Right.
said that I
Yes.
think you can tell more about a person by what they're into than you can about who they are. You find out who they are, but that secret handshake of stuff that we're into
Right.
is what always sort of, propels you. I
Yeah,
think.
it's not
Everything-
always easy to get someone's real the real resume of who they are
Right.
out of just talking to them, but their collection speaks volumes.
And I
Right,
think you
right.
you can meet someone who is into Ultraman or something.
Yeah.
And you might find out
Where
that
where
as-
where is he? Where are they?
you might find out as a human you don't really like them, like maybe some stuff that they're into, but you can bond on that.
Yes.
Right, right.
Most of the time,
Oh, well, that explains
most of the time when you're into this stuff, you find like-minded people, and they tend to be pretty cool people that
Right.
you suddenly you're into a similar band or whatever. So the whole idea of Biff Bang Pow was something that would sort of earn in between these gigs and do something, and B, that it could sort of be like a mixtape, that it could sort of be this, at the end of the, we reached a point a few years ago at Comic-Con when you stood in front of the cabinets where you could sort of look across the breadth of what we've done and go, yeah, it makes sense that the guys that did Twilight Zone might do the Star Trek thing, who might do the thing. And
Yes,
it's all
yeah.
sort
Right,
of
right.
that which I think is what the secret handshake is with people. You can be talking about whatever, and then somebody says, well, I mean, Wing's best album is, Back to the Egg, and you go, what? Sorry, say that again. What did you just say about? The
Did you
band
just say
Wings?
wings?
I've never heard that in my entire life. We need to sit down and talk. Let me get you a drink. Stay here. So that's kind of the gestation of it. It was the
Right.
and so that all sounds very simple. So the idea was, how do you start this? And this is something I don't think you know.
Go.
The first thing that I went after, that I was sort of obsessed with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
was a show called Spaced.
Oh yes,
Love-
of
love
course. Yes,
Space.
Simon
Jessica
Pegg.
Stevenson,
Yeah.
now Jessica Hines.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I spent a good year trying to work out that license and talking to the three sort of entities that sort of own. I mean, they didn't know what I was talking about. They didn't understand that. We don't know who owns it or licensed it, but it's like Channel 4 and it's it's a comedy thing or whatever it was. So I'd get up every other morning, way back, right around when I knew you, and make phone calls to London, with the time change,
Yeah.
and start working on this. And it never came through. But here's the crux of it.
Okay.
As I was working on that, when I finally got to Big Lebowski at Universal and Flash Gordon at King Features, the movie, I would use Spaced as sort of leverage and go, well, you know, this guy did Simon Pegg did this thing, and the guy at Universal went, is he in that Shaun of the Dead thing that we're distributing? And I went, yes, he is, and I'm doing those toys. So what the hell? And then we got the paperwork done for Big Lebowski, and then we got the paperwork done for Flash
So
Gordon.
it's like
And
a
so
little
you-
door
That's kinda
opening.
how it-
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I guess you kind of got in around that time where Simon Pegg and
Yeah.
company were kind of peaking or
Edgar
cresting.
Wright and all those guys.
Well, and that was part of the problem, was trying to explain to anyone remotely interested what Spaced was. It hadn't even gotten a Region 1 release
Right.
at that point.
Right,
It wasn't
right,
really
yeah.
known here. But it was a great tool to get to the other stuff. And I actually found something when I was thinking about this. I found a piece of paper the other day that was a short list. This is like 2004 or 5 maybe. What would I want to do if, you know, I could do Twilight Zone, Big Lebowski, Flash Gordon the movie,
Great.
the Caine collection, which was going to be Michael Caine action figures from
my
from the Italian Job and Get Carter and Ipcris File.
Oh my god, all those movies I love.
Yeah, we'd sell
Zulu? Oh my
dozens. No, not Zulu. Not Zulu. With
Alfie?
I was gonna go for the hand, but nobody cared. And I had Withnell and I. And I thought,
wow.
is anyone going to know what that? But that
Probably
was,
not, but who cares?
That was kind of where my head was at. Was it can't be so cult that nobody knows it.
Right.
Buckaroo
Yeah.
Banzai was on there too.
Oh yeah.
But
And it
enough
can't-
people know Buckaroo Banzai.
Well, I guess we'll get to that with the next questions. But it's fascinating the way this sort of all works, and where you think, well, yeah, there's got to be enough people to
Right.
support yada yada, but
Right.
not necessarily. Sorry, I rambled. But the thing is, that's how it all kicked off.
Okay.
Was getting the licenses, convincing them as a nobody that I can do this. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. I've got a whole bunch of ideas. I'm going to do it this way. And I'm gonna, because they have to go, who are you?
Right.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
How are you going to distribute this stuff?
Yeah.
Right.
And that's where Jason Labowitz came in from Entertainment Earth. We had become acquainted through another party. And that's how it started to snowball, was I would go after these things. And then Jason kind of went, you know, we don't have to always wait for Mattel or Hasbro to get this stuff out. What if we did what Diamond does and start going, why don't we start producing
Like
stuff or making
manufacturing
Yeah.
your own
Yeah.
stuff.
right? And that sort of changed everything, because I knew at a certain point I could not do it by myself.
Right.
Sculpting, prototypes, factory,
Right.
insurance, safety, yada yada. And that's when it really started to take off. But it was a couple years of knocking on doors, trying to sell encyclopedias.
That seems
Right.
that seems like that's the point where I would think, oh, wait a minute. Now the idea that we're going to make them and design them, like, that just seems impossible to me. Like, it just seems such a gigantic task.
Yeah, to make that a reality.
Well, this
awesome.
is but this is what I like. I mean, using Flash Gordon as the example. Okay, so you think to yourself, I want a Flash Gordon toy. I want to make a Flash Gordon toy, and then you think, okay, well, to make it cost-effective stuff, okay, what's the size? And then you need to think, okay, so if I get this size, and what's the box going to look like? That kind of.
I'll stop you there. I couldn't even think of. I didn't even have the sense to understand. Like, I knew what I kind of pictured in my head.
Yeah.
But the practicality of it was
Right.
sort of, I don't know what the hell.
Yeah. Would you make that's a very good point, Larry. Like, what size? What
Yeah.
size do you start with?
Right.
Do you do
Well,
12-inch? Do you do
Well,
Mego
'cause that's
size? Do you do
because my first
molded?
thought? I mean, Sean and I. We all have this affinity for a 12-inch figure. We all love those.
Yes.
Hey.
But it's like
Don't I know it?
Yeah, exactly. But it's like look back at the classic Star Wars figures. If you're trying to mass produce something or make something that isn't quite, you need to be cost effective.
Yeah,
I think
it's pretty expensive.
It is
That runs into
expensive.
some money,
And
yeah.
also the other thing too is, as a matter of fact, I'll bring up something from when Kenner back in 1980 made the large action figures. These are the Star Wars action figures. These are the 12-inch
12-inch
ones.
size,
Right,
yes.
right.
Now I of course have a whole set. Okay? Of
course you do.
But it's like they did when they were made. They did not sell well. Why? They were the 12-inch figures. They averaged anywhere between $10 to $12, and this is back in 19.
Yeah, that's a lot of money.
1980. That is.
Yeah.
Whereas the Star Wars figures, the smaller ones, are like $1.98.
Right.
So just by the price point,
But-
you know that you're not going to sell as many of the large action figures, and they only made that 1 year, really.
But
right,
but
yeah.
Larry,
Yes.
when it comes to these are the things that I always think about. Like, well, yeah, there's the 12-inch figure where it's like a sideshow thing, or Hot Toys where it's really detailed clothing and sculpting.
Right.
But like the Star Wars ones, they were nicely detailed.
Yeah.
But they're really just all plastic.
Yeah.
So I would think you'd save a little bit of money because it's just you just shoot something out of a mold, put it together, and that's kind of it. I'm painting, of
but
course.
Also, there's the logic about, okay, so how many hundreds of thousands of figures do we have to make to, make your money and then make a profit?
yes.
And
Jason?
Well, no, it's again. It's interesting you say that because let's quickly go forward before we go back again to the whole Toys R Us thing and how this is going to change things.
Oh,
people aren't really talking about it. They're sort of spending a lot of time on the internet bagging on Toys R Us and how I could never find anything or I could this or could that. It is going to have a possibly profound effect on the smaller toy companies. Not the Mattels, not the Hasbros, not the stuff that's going to be at Target and Walmart and
Right.
Hardware Hank or wherever the hell else.
And we're talking
sell
about
stuff.
Toys R Us closing, right?
Yeah, and so back in the day, even I would say even like 20 years ago, maybe 20, I don't know, whenever it was that Star Wars kicked off again. But
yeah,
you were talking about 25, 30 some thousand pieces per character.
yeah.
Now those days are done. Like you're 4,000 or 5,000 a character. And back to what you were saying about the 12-inch Kenner stuff. Kenner was making so much money with the Star Wars stuff that it definitely they stopped and went, this isn't working. Let's just
But it's like no skin off their
It was
back.
no
It was
skin off.
it was just a little tiny
It was
dent.
it was a
Right.
dent, but it was enough for them to go. The future is in this
smaller
3
figures.
3/4
Right.
thing
Yeah.
with the vehicles and all that
Yeah.
stuff. But like any sort of thing that you're into or a band or whatever it is, you
Fleetwood Mac.
Fleetwood Mac,
Boston.
non-Lindsey Buckingham Fleetwood Mac.
I do love Boston.
Matt only likes the non-Lindsey Buckingham Fleetwood Mac records.
Okay,
Hates Buckingham.
Okay.
Freaking hates him.
All right, but keep going.
Thinks he kind of brought the band down.
All right.
Yeah.
Actually, kind of.
I've written him a lot
Sold
of
out.
very angry emails. There's been
I
some
know.
tweets that have gotten a
Tell me
little
about
bit
it.
of a buzz.
Although loves the vacation song.
Okay, edge is
true.
my seat
Holiday
here.
Road.
True.
This
Who
is
doesn't?
great, but
Sorry.
Let's get back to
Well,
the
okay,
Fleetwood Mac
so-
figures.
No,
now,
no, come on.
So what I'm saying is, because I was going to go into the whole
Yeah.
that list I explained and like what we tried to do, and it was like, Flash Gordon.
Yeah.
was
When I
that the first figure that you guys did?
It was simultaneous. It was Flash Gordon, Flash and Ming,
Right.
6-inch.
Yeah, we got
DC
this.
Direct
Yeah.
style,
Yeah.
and the Big Lebowski, which was more of like an urban vinyl kind of thing.
Okay,
Right,
okay.
right, okay.
And while as much as I loved Big Lebowski, Flash Gordon was like, oh man, this was the movie. Like this,
Yeah.
I
Right.
was so depressed after The Empire Strikes Back because of what happened to Han Solo. And I'm not being funny. Like my mother, to this day, hates George Lucas because of the depression I went into after coming out of that movie. Because my life was this movie for 3 years.
That's what I want to talk about.
And then I was in the theater and I saw, because the animated series was on, the Filmation Flash Gordon. I was obsessed with it. It was
so
I
good.
really
That's
like
a really
that.
great
Such a
series.
great-
Ahead
yeah.
of its time.
Yes,
Again,
I agree.
If anyone listening has never seen that, run out and watch it.
You
now,
can get
because
them
it is-
easily
it is-
on DVD.
It is
Yeah.
brilliant.
By the way, I have all those figures too,
and as you should.
and the box.
So I'm in the theater and this trailer comes on for Flash Gordon, and it's like, what is this? And then I hear Freddie Mercury and I hear Queen, and I'm going, no, this can't. I'm 10. I'm like spitting out my. So when the movie came out, it sort of lifted me out of my my depression with
Go,
Han Solo.
Flash,
Like,
go. Go, Flash, go.
and I got the album and I got the comic and but there was nothing out for it. There
Yeah,
were
I know.
no,
Yeah.
there was
You're
no
right.
merchandise.
We waited
right.
so long. Yeah.
And so as I'm thinking of these things over the years, it's like, what would be really cool? And then I kind of thought, who should design that stuff is Alex Ross. That's who I should get.
Really?
That's who I. But how is that going to happen?
Yeah, that seems like kind of a big get.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny you say it because I was announcing Spaced at Comic-Con at the booth, the Entertainment Earth booth. 2343, by the way. Come out and see us in July.
Oh, we will.
yes, sir.
And I looked across the way and I saw the Alex Ross booth, and his logo was in the shape of the Flash Gordon logo.
Yeah.
And I remember reading in, and this will date me or all of us, Wizard magazine.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
that was his favorite movie. And I thought, I'm going to walk over to that booth and talk to whatever. And I talked to his manager, Sal. And, I'm going, hey, I'd like to do a thing with the thing.
You used to be a girl?
I did. This is 2000, 2005, 2006. So
You were a very cute girl.
much
I just want to
different.
say.
I looked good.
Yeah.
And I walked over there, and it's like he's just not giving me the time of day. And then
Right.
he suddenly stopped and went, whoa. The Flash Gordon movie? You talking about the movie you got the license for? Yes, I do. Gave him the card, whatever. And 3-4 months later, my phone rings, and it's Alex.
Wow.
And we've been friends, ever since. Like we have these because he doesn't use the internet, so we're like,
Yeah, I've
we're
heard that.
these.
He doesn't use the internet?
No, he doesn't. He relies
Wait.
on other people.
Let me. It's not.
Interesting.
Well, no. It's just that he doesn't really. The internet is not his thing. He doesn't need to get online,
And
or
that's
whatever.
okay.
Yeah, no, totally. And he's
I love the fact that you can be that successful where you go, the internet's just not my thing.
Well, he's also. It's funny because the thing that we sort of bonded on in the first couple of phone calls, besides the project, was music. Was the
I thought you were going to say regular mail, but go ahead.
it was mail order catalogs, and because I mentioned the small faces at some point, and I stopped and I was like, no, not the faces, the
Small faces, yes.
And he went, yeah, I know, with Steve Marriott and Ronnie Lane. I'm like, the small faces, and it's led to this bromance we've had.
That's great. That's great.
But he immediately jumped on board, and we had the same mindset of like, let's do that. Like, I want to make this stuff. If this is the only chance we get to make
Right.
these, if this doesn't work, let's go with the 6-inch DC Direct sort of design and a couple of accessories and not too much articulation. And that was the idea. Like, I didn't want to do a statue, and I knew we couldn't do 3 3/4 or whatever. Let's just push the boat out with that.
Right. Okay.
And it did well enough to get a second wave going, which he designed. As
My
well.
wife,
They're great figures.
you
Thank you very
gave
much.
me a figure.
Did I?
Yes, because I said, and this is true, my wife, I'm a fan of Flash Gordon, and it's a movie that I like more as an adult.
Yeah.
I think when it came out, there was a silliness to it. No, I don't want to even say silliness,
But there is. They're
but a
campiness.
campness. Camp is a better word.
There
Yes.
completely is. There's no denying.
Oh,
it.
yeah,
Even as
yeah.
a kid, I went, that was it. Lose the
And
joke.
it was
Get
so,
back
it
to
was
that.
so refreshing, though. at the
but as
time.
a-
Sean and I know.
Yeah.
I mean, when I saw it with my dad and my older brothers,
Yeah.
and they showed a Disney cartoon beforehand, beautiful theater, and from the very beginning, I loved it. And it's because I love Star Wars and Empire. They were
Yeah.
great. This had a completely different look.
Completely
Well,
different.
bright
And I give you
colors
guys,
and the
I give you guys
sparkles.
credit
It
for
did.
recognizing that. I think I was coming from a time where I felt like so much science fiction, especially around the time of Star Wars, now wasn't being taken seriously.
Right.
And
Fair,
so when Flash Gordon came out, I felt like, okay, well, this is fun, but we're still kind of treading that same water.
It's another variation.
Yeah.
Well, it's telling though that the movie when it came out, it really wasn't a hit.
No, it
Yeah.
wasn't.
but it's
Well-
now since kind of.
And I like it. I like it way more now. Like now I appreciate it. My wife, who's 10 years younger than me, that's right. She's
she's 18.
She's you old flatterer, you. Nice. You
Still
will,
got it.
You will be coming back.
I still got it. Still got it.
But yeah, one of her favorite films, and so I
don't
remember
remember.
talking to you, and I said, "Oh," and you said you're doing this toy line, and I said, "Well, my wife is crazy for Flash Gordon,"
Oh man.
and you gave me one of the figures.
I did?
So that was like your first
awesome.
figure.
Oh, wow.
And it was the
Yeah.
one
Yeah.
with the Flash T-shirt.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, the yellow packaging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
No, it's funny because it did well in Europe and Japan and all that
Right,
stuff. but
right.
It
It did
just
overseas,
didn't,
right.
Yeah, and it was that it's mental. I mean, this movie is insane.
Oh, absolutely. That's why
And
I love it, though. Yeah,
the-
it's nuts.
And I stand
Yeah.
by it to the degree that there's nothing else out there that looks, sounds, or feels like that
to this
movie.
day.
You know what it looks like to
Nothing.
me? It comes off to me now as like wholesome Barbarella.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a
kinda.
little
And
bit,
yet-
a little
and
bit the ancestor, I think, or descendant of Barbarella, and maybe,
And yet-
yeah, like
Well, and yet
Not that wholesome.
Well, there's some.
Well,
there's some-
well, yeah.
no, yeah,
There's some
you're right.
stuff.
Yeah.
you're right.
You know,
yeah.
like she rivals your daughter. Like, whoa! How do you know that? Like, what are you talking about? What the I mean, there's some
Yeah,
kinky,
there's some
Sure.
stuff.
weird-
There's an undercurrent.
There's
yeah.
definitely a translation
Yeah.
thing between Dino and everybody else on the movie that
Right,
sort
right.
of,
And so being a Flash Gordon fan,
yeah.
were you aware of Flesh Gordon?
Oh, absolutely, I was.
Okay.
Yes. And you know who did the voice of the creature in Flesh Gordon? I bet
that?
you know this. You have to know
No,
this.
just say it.
Craig T. Nelson.
No.
I like that.
Really?
Yeah.
One of his first
Yeah.
little
And
things.
Guys got to work.
I think they
Gotta work, right?
They added the voice later to that
Yes.
monster
Yeah.
because it was just
Yes.
kind of they realized they needed something else.
I think it's one of the first things that he did.
He's like
that Craig T.
mumbling
Nelson
and
did.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
No
God.
really,
way.
really great
Crazy.
performance.
Oh, yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think he won an Oscar for it. I think.
No,
It
no.
rivals-
I've only.
Yeah, it
no,
rivals
come on.
Andy Serkis's work. I mean, it's really that
Hands
good.
down.
All
Circus,
right.
that hack.
All
Now,
right.
talk about figures that I'd like to see.
Oh, yeah?
Oh my god.
true.
Ornella
Flash
Muti?
Gordon.
I want a Penosaurus so bad.
Okay, well,
For multiple
well,
reasons.
here's the goofy thing. Now, so you're Mr. Toy Guy. Let me just ask you this. So I remember talking to some of the
actually,
guys.
I was knighted, so I'm actually
Okay.
certified.
Sir Toy.
Sir Toys a lot.
I don't know if you...
Lord Toy, man.
I didn't... that sort of just broke before we did the show.
So I was.
You heard it here first, folks.
So I love toys, and we have lots of toys, and I was talking to one of the guys in the Super 7 booth.
Oh, yeah?
And we were talking about
Who, Brian? Was it Brian?
It might have been. It
Yeah.
might have been Brian, but we were talking about this large size Godzilla that was made as a as kind of a store sample in Japan.
Okay.
And I said, "My God, I would love to get something like that. Can't you guys do something like that?" And he goes, "Well, Larry, here's the problem. The problem is to make something like that. It's going to cost us a lot of money." And I go, "Okay, well, I mean, I'll pay, $250, $300, $500 for it." He goes, "Okay, Larry, that's great. Let's say you get it, but I'm going to need about 1,500 guys like you to do that, and maybe
he's
there's
absolutely right,
and
yeah.
maybe there's you and maybe 250, but again, I need to get 1,500 guys like you."
Let me put it to you this way. The
Yeah.
Flash T-shirt figure.
Yes.
So that would have been about 33 years, 34 years later,
Yes.
something like that. You think in all that time, you go, well, if we make these, there's enough people out there that,
Yeah.
in the world
Yes.
that are going to want these things.
Yeah.
I think
Sounds
we-
like famous last words, maybe.
I
right?
think we only did about 3,000 of each character.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
not a lot.
And they didn't
didn't fly off the
disappear.
shelf.
Really?
They didn't disappear in 2 months.
Yeah.
It was a slow burn.
Yeah.
Now, Twilight Zone,
Yeah.
where you
yes.
think, and that's a story that I think I told you, but I can tell you more on the show if you want. But the way that
yes, please.
sort of rolled was, I mean, should I tell that story? You want to hear that story?
Yes,
I would love to hear the story.
By the way,
Tell the Twilight Zone story.
For everyone listening, that sounded like that we had rehearsed something before, and I was turning it back going,
no.
Should I tell the thing I told?
This is like
This was it.
See,
the pre-panel
no,
kind of
where's the
thing.
script?
No, and see for the listeners,
scene are we on?
for the listeners, Jason and Matt, I mean, they
What
kind of
scene
know
are
each
we
other.
on?
I don't know this guy, and so this is the first time
Look,
I'm hearing.
First of all,
this.
you don't have to be angry at him because he just volunteered to tell the story.
Okay.
He is going to tell the story.
For the record, Larry, I like anger.
All right, well, I
Okay,
take it
well,
all back.
well, look,
bring
there's
it
no,
up.
there's no anger
You
here.
need to hang around here a lot more because there's a lot of it.
No, there's no anger.
bouncing
but
around.
we're talking about these great Twilight Zone figures.
So if we go back a bit, at this point, there's Flash Gordon, there's
Yeah.
the Big Lebowski,
Yeah.
looking for a third license.
Okay.
Forget exactly how that happened, but I got in touch with somebody in licensing involved with Showtime, CBS. Dexter had been on for like a season.
Yes.
Not a
Dexter.
ton of people knew this show.
Right,
Yeah.
And
right.
this will go back to the Toys R Us thing.
Sure.
And as I'm talking to her, she said, "What about this? We've got Dexter." And I said, "Whoa, Dexter, yeah." And so we got the Dexter license. Dexter started to sort of go like we did.
Right.
We had to. I don't know if I should say this, but no, I can say it. Sorry. It's just that when we did
That's
that,
what makes good radio.
Showtime had never really done something like that for any of their properties.
Yeah.
Is that right? Really?
Yeah, and to say, you guys know about Comic-Con? And they were like, eh. And so you had to go, yeah, but it's really cool. And here's what you think. Anyway, the year before they had people handing out like bumper stickers.
Sure.
Okay.
Right,
The
right.
year after, we had this bobblehead,
Yeah.
and everybody went mental for this thing.
For the Dexter bobblehead.
For the Dexter bobblehead, like the blood-splattered bobblehead.
Yeah.
Right, right.
That suddenly they go, what else do you guys want to do? So we made an action figure, which Toys R Us took. That was the first thing we had on the shelves
that
at Toys
right?
R Us.
No.
Took us a while to get in there.
Yeah. Wow.
And today, if we were to do that with any retailer, nobody would take that. Toys R Us took it. That opened that door for
And
all
what do
the
you mean by
things.
that? Because they wouldn't take it because of the subject matter?
Subject matter.
Okay.
It was
But
a
it's
little
like you
too
couldn't get into
cult. It was-
Walmart. You probably couldn't get into
No.
Target.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Toys
Do you
R
ma-
Us went,
ju-
yeah.
Just to when we had the guy who did Big Ass Spider. Remember, they said
Yes,
that
yeah.
Mike Mendez.
Mike Mendez.
Oh, right,
and
yeah.
he said his film Big Ass Spiders, Walmart wouldn't take it unless they changed the title.
Right.
So can you imagine this
Yeah,
figure?
they had to change
in
Big Ass
Walmart? Yeah,
Spider.
yeah,
Like
to
Hellboy 2. Toys R Us doing Hellboy 2. The packaging said HB2. Could not say Hellboy 2 on the packaging.
wow.
The Mezco figures, couldn't do it.
That's
Apparently,
crazy.
kids don't know the word hell
I guess not.
when they go into Toys R Us.
Yeah.
Like they don't hear it from their parents.
Well,
Shut the hell up! You're not getting that.
remember that book that you guys are all crazy about? I think hell's in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so
That's
you were able
true.
to get
That is
Dexter.
true.
You were able to get Dexter into Toys R Us.
So, what I'm saying is, as Dexter was growing, we started talking about other things that CBS sort of had under their umbrella.
Right.
And I just remember the conversation again where she threw a couple of things out, and I went, And this is the tough bit too, is trying to figure out, okay, this stuff is doing all right. People are they're going, oh, Big Lebowski and Flash Gordon. Wow, I'm so glad but it's not like 30, 50,000 people saying thank
Exactly.
you, thank you.
Yeah.
But
Right.
it's nice and steady.
Sure.
And so you can't dive into something that's a household name necessarily, and you don't want to go too cult. And she said Twilight Zone, and I was so knocked out that because Serling is an absolute hero of mine, my entire
All of
life.
us.
Yeah.
And I went, whoa, the Twilight Zone, the show, the original show. And she said, and for the first time with Rod Serling's likeness, like you'd be able to make merchandise with Serling. No. So that's kind of what I said was no. And
As you would.
and the next thing you know, we got the license.
Because that opens up that show. Had so many characters. There's a plethora of different figures and
But again,
characters.
to be fair, I really thought it was going to be the monsters. I thought we were going to get through some monsters and goodbye.
Right.
And the more it grew, the more people were like, "Are you going to do Burgess Meredith?"
Yeah.
Right. You did. Yeah.
Well, now this is something that you did tell me a little bit about,
Yes.
but I would love for you to expand on this, which is dealing with the likeness of Rod Serling.
Yes.
Because
Oh, yeah.
I think we've all, for our collections, would love the definitive
Rod Serling action
Rod
figure.
Serling figure. Host Rod Serling from either Twilight Zone. I mean, I would, of course, go mental if there was a line of Night Gallery.
Oh,
figures.
totally.
Yeah, totally.
But to have
With a little painting in the background.
yeah, but I mean, like to have a classic Rod Serling figure with the suit,
Yep.
Yeah.
maybe a
Cigarette.
optional cigarette. Yeah, of course. Yeah, you're right. But you told me at one point in the past that that was a little tricky.
What?
Yeah, it's funny you mention it because that was one of the, and by the way, this story doesn't this isn't out of malice or like denigrating.
No,
any of
not
this
at all,
stuff.
no.
But we had it in the license that first time Rod Serling, like go.
Yeah.
So the first, and by the way, at the time, all we were really doing was bobbleheads. We did the figures for Flash Gordon and Big Lebowski, but again, trying to test the waters and think, how do we push the boat out with this stuff and see who wants what?
Because there hasn't been too much merchandise up to this point. for
Twilight Zone had been
there were
a board game, some comics, and
some
sideshow.
sideshow.
Sideshow did
Sideshow,
a couple
yeah.
things,
That's
but that's it.
In
Right.
50 years of the show,
Yeah,
it's nothing.
it's crazy.
So again, half your brain goes, oh, it must be because nobody thinks it's gonna. Yeah, forget it.
Right.
The other half of your brain goes, yeah, but maybe it's because they haven't gotten it yet. So
Right.
there's always that.
Or too expensive, like the sideshow.
Sideshow. Yeah.
Is a
Yeah.
little even
Yeah,
though they
they're
were relatively
beautiful. They're beautiful.
cheap for us too.
Yeah. But they are
to a
expensive.
mass audience a
12-inch
little
figures,
bit
yeah.
a little bit high end.
And that's the inner struggle. Is they probably don't want it, or but maybe they haven't heard about it yet. Like, she's my sister, she's my mother. It's that kind of thing. It's very Chinatown.
By the way, I'm waiting for the Chinatown figures.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I want the optional Faye Dunaway Hay with a bullet in her
All
eye.
right.
I've got
No,
those
no.
blueprints.
Yeah,
No, what I
yeah.
want
By the
is
way.
I want a Jack Nicholson where you press a little thing on his back and blood will spurt out of his nose.
Come out of his nose.
Yeah.
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 Right.
Well,
Okay.
I've thought of stranger things than that to make as things.
Don't say Stranger
But
Things.
this is great. But
So Twilight Zone. So the idea was, okay, well, let's at least start with bobbleheads.
Yeah.
Like bobbleheads or statues.
Okay.
Anyway, we start making plans for the
Rod
the
Serling.
Gremlin for
Right.
Yeah.
20,000 Nightmare 20,000 feet, and then there's something else, and Rod Serling.
Uh-huh.
And as we're going along with it, we get word back that from the network that Carol Serling, Rod's widow, doesn't really feel comfortable about the bobblehead thing.
Okay.
And so we went, oh, okay. Well, how about if we same height as the bobbleheads. We make like sort of a realistic looking, more statues
Right.
that have just the larger head. And okay, you should be good with that. So we started making plans. We made a prototype, and then we got word back again that she didn't want to do it at all. Like,
Okay.
was just not comfortable with it.
I would think something like that, something that had the likeness of Rod Serling on it, would be something that would keep Rod Serling's memory alive.
Yeah, no, I thought it's the same thing. I just when I heard that, it was like we didn't even. There was a little bit of that's it, but my brain immediately kind of went, she was married to the guy. If there's somebody that would know, there must have been something deep down that she thought, I think this somehow
Would go against
not
what he
denigrates, but just sort of maybe he wouldn't
trivialize.
If he were alive, he wouldn't. I don't know, because so much of it was about his image anyway. So it's a curious thing. I don't know. But so as we're talking to the network very kindly, I said, well, that's okay, but let's talk about other categories. If we can't do that, even though it's in the license, let's get action figures. We should. If you can just add that on, that'd be great. And no harm, no foul. Let's move on. And they did. And then all hell broke loose, because we started designing the action figures, and all of a sudden this audience was there that I wasn't sure was going to be there beyond the creatures. Beyond the Howling Man, and the Gremlin, and the Canamet and stuff. And it just kept going and going and going.
Talkie Tina.
Yeah.
Again,
Which I love and have.
was never in the original license. It kept growing. It kept being, why don't you do tins, and why don't you do, and we kept opening categories.
And so my daughter we have the full Talkie Tina, the big doll. We have the medium-sized doll and the little doll, both in black and white and color. We have all of them.
The bobblehead.
Yeah, I have the bobblehead.
I've got a Rondo. I got a Rondo award.
You got a Rondo award?
I got a Rondo for that bobblehead.
Awesome.
It was voted like best freaky collectible or something it was that year, and so I've got a Rondo on my shelf.
That's awesome. That's great.
So far, 1.5 people that have ever been to my home know what the hell it is. But that's
You
not the
know,
point.
that's
But I
the
know,
important
and
thing.
that's all.
We know what the Rondo is.
Yeah, that's
We know.
great.
So I hope that answers the question. Whatever you asked 55 minutes ago when you
But
asked the question.
what I'm curious about is the whole licensing aspect, which is the idea of you go in wanting to make some toys of said property, and the idea that the thing that you may feel is going to be an easier get turns out to be hard,
Yeah.
and then the other thing turns out to be relatively easy. What is the overall difficulty level of just getting that licensing?
It's case by case, because something like Marvel and DC, with the categories we were talking about, because a lot of it has to do with the categories that are available too.
Okay.
You go, we really want to do this, but it's like, those categories are taken. So
like action figures, lunchboxes, or whatever.
and you go,
Right,
well,
okay.
what do you got? Well, we've got bath soaps or whatever. You go, okay, let's check out bath soaps. And that's when you kind of think, well, this is such a big license that we could maybe do those things, whatever.
Yeah.
In other words, if I were to go knocking to a studio or a network or something, Doctor Who is a great example. Doctor Who was a show that blew my head off when I was a little kid.
You hear that, everybody?
Yes, I hear you.
No, it did. It did. No, the Tom Baker, when that aired.
Oh my God.
When that aired on
That's
local
always the
television.
touchdown for so many of us.
He fucking genius. that
Nightmare
guy.
inducing and genius at the same
Yeah.
time. I did not know what I was watching. It
Yeah.
was like,
Right.
I don't know if I should be freaked out about it. I'd never seen anything shot on video like that.
Yeah, it had
Except
some
for
weird feel.
like Monty Python or Faulty Towers, things like that.
Or,
Dark-
or like
Dark
Dark
Shadows.
Shadows.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I didn't know what this was, but I was obsessed with it. So when we eventually got that, it was like, okay, what are we talking about here? How much are we talking about for this license? What categories are we talking about? And if you kind of go back and forth on that and go, I'm not sure there's a big enough audience for that, or whatever. Or like, we want X amount of dollars for this thing, and it's going to come out in May, and wait till when it hits in May, it's going to be huge. And you go, I have no way of knowing that. I don't know if Cowboys and Aliens is going to be the biggest movie of the year.
Right. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure many people thought at the time.
No,
that
it's a tough call.
Thank you very much.
That is the gamble.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember going to Toys R Us and thinking to myself, at this particular time, Avatar was huge, making a ton of money. And I remember thinking, boy, those Avatar toys, I know they're coming out. And I remember seeing them at Toys R Us. First of all, they're really small and skinny, and like they didn't look very healthy.
Much like the
And-
script.
No. But I was no, dude, hear me out. And I remember thinking to
I'm
myself,
listening.
wait, this is like one of the biggest money makers of all time, and you guys are skimping on the figures. I remember not being impressed. And you know what, Jason? They did not sell. They did not sell well
No,
at
they didn't.
Which is
all.
They did.
kind of amazing,
But
right?
be-
The fact
because
that a movie that big,
But it's like
no matter
it's a-
what was available,
it's a
you know?
crapshoot. It is such a crapshoot, and you're dealing with figures. Okay, gee, I got to make maybe 3, maybe 5,000 figures, and when you're Hasbro or Mattel,
Yeah.
you can't think 5. You're thinking like a million toys,
And
or like say 500,000.
I
or
mean,
something.
it depends, man. It's a. Here's a great example: the Venture Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, the Venture Brothers was something that I loved for a long time, and the whole thing started to kind of happen in different ways. And then when I met the guys, it was like, well, I have an idea of what I'd like to do, And we literally were standing there. I was with Doc Hammer and Jackson Public in front of the booth, and Jackson sort of went, "Could you do something like that?" And he pointed to these prototypes of 8-inch clothed outfit, Flash
like
Gordon
Mego
figures.
style.
Yeah.
And I went,
Wow.
that's exactly what I was thinking, like that kind
Right.
of those kind of
Yeah.
vehicles and whatever. And he's like, that's what I remember. I'd love to. So that became the thing. Then the fan base kind of goes, why would you do that? Like, why would you? What's the point?
Which
of
their fan base.
their fan base?
Okay.
And you go, it's kind of makes sense for the show. And
Absolutely.
so it was a lot of uphill climb. But this is a much longer story, but I'll break it down. So we did the 8-inch figures, and they did well, and they had a great audience, and people dug them. And we did some other things and some tins and some.
Yeah, you did a number of series of that.
But nobody cared about bobbleheads. Nobody cared about drinkware. And you kind of go, this show's had nothing for merchandise but
Right.
Right.
hoodies and T-shirts. Why would you not care if we did bobbleheads, let's say? They didn't care. And when you started to look at the figures, it was like Brock. And so they finally said, why don't you do 4-inch figures? We don't like your... Okay, we'll do the 4-inch figures. Brock. And I love those figures. I stand by those 4-inch figures.
Yeah.
But you kind of go, okay, well, we thought there was a massive fan base there because everybody loves this show and knows this show.
Right.
Not necessarily coming out to play. It's tricky.
Right.
It's really a crapshoot.
Yeah, and to know, like, because you're not only just dealing with the properties, the licensing necessarily, but you're also dealing with, have bobbleheads kind of reached their zenith? Are they, becoming passé? And is that the reason? Or is it just because...
it's a type of toy.
But
Yeah.
yet, the history has sort of had shown us at that point that bobbleheads were kind of a thing for people that was like, again, that secret handshake of you're at work, you're at your desk or your cubicle or whatever. You might not bring an action figure to sit on your desk, but you're
Gotcha.
okay bringing a bobblehead
Oh,
to sit
yeah.
on your
Right.
desk.
It's like a little
And
kitschy
then
thing to have.
and somebody
like,
walks
yeah.
by and goes,
you're into Dexter.
Now, would
Are
you-
into that? Yes, exactly.
It's an
And would-
ornament, not so much a toy, but it's an ornament.
It's an ornament.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
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 And
It's not a figure. It's
Right.
yeah. Okay.
It's not a
fine,
doll.
Steve. Don't worry about it. I don't
Right.
think
And would that
no.
explain, which for me, I'm always a little bit perplexed about the whole pop figure thing?
Oh, the phenomenon of
would
the
that,
pop figures.
Would that fit in that same kind of category?
I think it would.
maybe?
I think it does.
It's
I think
strange
it
to me,
does.
like the. I mean, I
It's very-
assume it's popular. All
so huge.
All I know is that I
Huge,
see
Sean.
every convention I go, every toy store, there are about 1 trillion of them.
And
Yeah.
I never necessarily see people buying them though, but
Okay.
I assume they are.
Guess-
But like they're everywhere.
Sean, my 12-year-old daughter and her friends have a bunch of those pop
Okay,
figures.
they're for me personally, they're incredibly unappealing.
The teenage kids I've got kidnapped at my place, they love pop vinyls. I give them the pop vinyls to shut up.
Yeah, it's like you can have
Yeah.
food
Well, the
or a
pop
pop vinyl.
The
Right.
funny thing,
Stop
if you,
screaming.
if you think about like from a price point, or from a business perspective, the basic shape and the style, and
They're just for me. They're
well,
so
they-
aesthetically unappealing
Yeah.
to me.
But
Well-
unless you're of a different generation,
I
now.
guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, without commenting on that, because I know some of those folks.
Okay.
No,
Sure,
because
sure.
no, but I'm
it's
just saying.
we're not
I love that.
yeah,
no,
we're
no,
not-
no,
we're
I
not
get it.
crapping
no,
on
I know you're
them.
not. I know you're
It's
not.
just the phenomenon.
I think in terms of the behind the screen sort of thing is you go, well, you got to get it approved, but you don't really have to worry about a likeness.
Is
A
that
lot
what
of this
it is?
stuff.
Is
A
that-
lot,
That's
a
a
lot
really
of it you
good
have
point.
to. You
so
gotta.
if
You gotta
it's
No, they look nothing
If
like them
it's-
at all.
I mean,
Okay.
take Twilight Zone.
Sure.
You know, there was only a certain amount under that umbrella to
Right.
go, yeah, do whatever you want. Then you get to Shatner.
That-
then you
yeah,
get to
I was gonna
Nimoy,
ask about
and then you get
Shatner.
to
Yeah.
Meredith. That's not covered under the main license.
Right,
You got to start
right.
knocking on certain doors,
Interesting.
or
Yeah.
you know.
And how'd that
states.
go? But
It was great, but you're working with in concert with.
Yes.
So you have to go
the
directly to
network.
Shatner.
or
right?
Well, the
the
network
estate.
does.
The network
So
does,
we
okay.
talk to the network and go, you know, we want to do this Shatner thing if it
Okay.
works out. And you know, he's great. He's been whatever.
Great, yeah.
And he's
He-
been
he-
at the booth. Like he's come to the I've got the prototype
wow.
of the Mystic Seer signed by Shatner because he came by the booth to
Well,
say congratulations and all this. We're like, whoa.
He,
Wow.
he,
That's
he gets
awesome.
a few bucks, you
Well,
know.
sure.
I,
of course.
I think so, but
Oh,
like
no, he does.
It
But
keeps
come
him
on.
relevant, though.
But in Shatner world, it's like a pack
Yeah.
of certs. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like
No,
Yeah, but
I
still,
get
but I
it.
think
Can I
he
say
embraced-
brands
he
on the-
embraces
Yeah,
Can I say
that.
yeah, it's fine.
Are you guys
Just
sponsored by
don't
certain?
sing the jingle or anything. Just don't do that.
Making sure. I was going to say Pez.
I didn't even know there was one really, but I belonged.
that's-
I'm in the
but, you know,
'60s. I'm guessing.
So that's
It's
interesting,
something,
though.
yeah,
So,
but-
so you're saying that in some cases the pop figures they can they can work around
The
certain
likeness thing,
specific
yeah.
licensing.
Well,
if
I'm just
it's
saying
not-
if there's something that Burgess Meredith's widow needs to approve that thing and get
Right,
a look at
right.
it. I mean, I'm not using that as an example, but
Right.
there are instances where, like the Flash Gordon license, there was unfortunately for certain people involved, there was the license was what it was in 1980. I've seen the paperwork, and I had to go through a lot of hoops to get it. I spent 6-8 months of my life convincing King Features that they had the licensing rights for this merchandise.
Wow.
And they said, no,
jeez.
Warner Brothers made the movie. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right.
Listen, I'm working on a show right now. I can't really talk, but listen, I know Warner's, but you guys own
Your coffee's
character.
coming, sir.
I'll be right there in a minute.
Yeah.
You guys made. I know that, but it's the character belongs to.
Right.
They
yeah.
had to eventually. I had to call Warner Brothers and beg them to go through their paperwork, make copies, send it
right,
to King
right.
Features, and go. You guys have the, and they went, oh right. Oh yeah.
That's so crazy.
Okay, thank you. So, and within that, there's all the likenesses are sort of covered. Whereas with Twilight Zone, as an overall license, you got to go. Well, wait a second, who's or like Big Bang Theory or whatever. If there were
Right,
guest
right.
stars, or
Not familiar.
Right, right.
You do Big Bang Theory.
yeah,
you
we
have
do
those figures.
Yeah. Okay. Why don't you let it go? I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
No, that's a
I'm
popular
sorry.
show. They're
It is a
popular
popular show. It's a
figures.
huge show. It's a very popular show. It's big
I
figures.
hear it's very big in Spain.
Very big in Spain.
So what about like when it comes to something like Star Trek?
Yes.
I mean, like how did that how
Because that's
Well,
so huge.
yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
that's
that-
such a gigantic franchise.
Yeah, it is.
But-
no, but it's again, it's very, very tricky. It's like you think, well, yeah, you go, everything's been done. What's it gonna like? Oh no, but we've never done this, or these
Right,
things
right.
have never happened, and it's a perennial. So you kind of think, yeah, people are gonna come out for it.
right.
They don't necessarily.
Not always,
And
no.
not always. And the anniversary came up and everything else, and we were already with CBS for Twilight Zone. And
Yeah.
this makes sense totally. And we did some really cool stuff, and
Yeah.
people dug it, and it's still going. And
You did the Melvin Belli figure from the original series,
Yes.
which I was
Yes.
surprised.
the 12-inch, the $500 12-inch limited edition.
that was
figure
made of porcelain.
came with two of the kids.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hail, fires when you want.
Yeah.
You would just wind
Wait,
it up. Yeah.
did you have that one?
Yeah, and
No.
it doubles as a Zodiac figure. Like you can put him into the story of Zodiac.
I missed that. I didn't see that one.
It's kind of amazing. It's
I do
one of our-
want that
it's one of
now.
our best.
Now I really want that. I do want that.
But now
It's
when
one
it-
of our best.
One thing though, I always love when like a toy line will come out of characters that like just have never been out before. Maybe a license that has been out from other companies, but certain characters like when you put out the classic, the original Battlestar Galactica.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Mego
Yes.
style figures.
Oh yeah.
Because like now they made in the 70s they made the little 3.5-inch
Mattel.
plastic one.
Yeah, Mattel.
And then the
But-
weird 12-inch ones that weren't even really Battlestar Galactica
But
figures.
these were like Mego style, and you put out like Adama and
All of them, yeah.
Starbuck.
Athena and Lucifer. I mean,
Even
like, these are-
Boxy
yeah,
and-
I mean, but it's
Yeah.
great though. Like, and they're really well done.
no, they're
thank
great.
you.
They're
Thanks.
really
Like,
great.
No,
those
but-
are like,
Yeah.
this is
But see,
great.
what was frustrating when we were kids, when those figures came out, they had Adama, they had Starbuck, they didn't have Apollo.
Right,
They
right.
had the Daggett, but they didn't have
Yeah.
Boxy. And I'm like,
So now
what,
you
what
guys-
the hell? I remember
Yeah.
being so
now
mad.
you can get Starbuck and Apollo with
Yes.
their cool helmets on,
Yes,
and like
with their-
it's just and the gold
The gold
Cylon.
Cylon.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just
Very-
for me. I mean, I love 12-inch. I love the smaller size, but there's something about because I grew up with so many, collecting the
I think we all
Migos.
enjoy
the
those.
Migo
Yeah.
8
No.
inches. They're kind of just the right size. For,
It made
shelves,
sense.
You know,
It made
like,
sense.
And the cloth, because even you look at the Migos, even though the likenesses weren't always spot on, they were in the spirit of the likenesses, and there's something so charming about it.
I still say to this day, two of the greatest sculpts of two faces that are very, very difficult to get right in sculpting. Sorry.
We'll fix it in editing.
Fix that in post, will you? Two of the most difficult faces to get right are Harrison Ford and William Shatner. Wow. There's a lot of stuff that doesn't work.
Yeah, you're right.
Two of the best sculpts of all time are the 12-inch Han Solo, then used for Indiana Jones, Harrison Ford.
I have that one.
And the Migo.
Migo Kirk.
Shatner.
That
love
is
it.
You're
That's
right.
a great
sculpt.
You're right.
At first glance, you go, and then you go, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that is him. That is so him.
Yeah.
The
I usually
sculpts are the
put
Migo
some
stuff-
cotton
Migos
in the
are-
belly a little bit just to.
Do you really?
Usually-
You don't do that.
Yes,
Stuart.
I do.
Because all your
actually.
adventures take place after
I-
lunch. They're like after the
I do have to
commissary.
tell you. I do have to tell you. So I had a Migo Shatner Kirk figure, and I had a couple of them. And so I had one where I also had some miscellaneous Migo pieces, right? And one of the pieces I had was the Cowardly Lion.
I had him.
Yes.
I had him.
Oh,
So
yeah,
what I
have-
did
have
is
all
I-
the Wizard of Oz figures.
Yeah,
Actually. They're beautiful.
I took the Cowardly Lion's body and I put Shatner's head on it. What? To give him a little bit of a gut.
Can I just ask, is this recently or when you were a child? Is this something
couple weeks-
recent?
a couple weeks ago.
Let me just say I was an adult. I was an adult.
Unbelievable. That is
We're an adult
blasphemy.
when you did that. It is.
Yes, we all have. We still love Migo in
I
our
know,
adult.
dude, but I would never do that as.
I'm gonna-
I wouldn't
I'm
even do
gonna-
that as a kid.
Why?
I'm going to say something about
Because you
William
can sometimes
Shatner
you can
right
get
now.
you can get pieces. You can get.
Yeah,
you
but
can make
as
your
a
own
kid,
customized
no, you
Migo.
want to keep it pristine and
Well,
don't
unless
mess it up with-
if you have one that's pristine,
Yeah.
which I had one that's you'll love this, Larry, still in the package.
Nice.
Yes.
I have a Kirk in the package.
I have a Kirk, a Spock, and a Klingon unopened.
Nice.
Yes.
Wow.
And
I'm so
so I felt like I was in my right, Jason.
Yeah, of course you were.
To take some pieces, put together my dream figure, which is
Chubby
season 2 leaning into 3. No one had showed him the dailies yet of what he looked like from the side,
Right.
and and I made my dream come true.
I'm going to say something about Shatner, just on that note. When he wanted, the first time I met him at the booth, I'm going to say this. Yeah, he is. Everything, yeah, that's Shatner. It's kind of what you get.
Well,
Number
I don't
two.
know.
I would have it
Number
no
two.
other
I'm not
way.
sure
Number
what that
two.
is.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But when he put his arm on my shoulder and I sort of did the same thing for this photo, I went, he's pretty solid, this guy.
I don't want to tangle with him.
I looked at him and thought, I wouldn't, he could take the Gorn, like right now.
Yeah.
Still.
There's something about the way he's like, you kind of do, and you're like, ooh, he's kind of, he's riding horses and
here's the
shit.
thing,
Like
is
he's
that-
kind of,
Sure,
I know
yeah.
he looks, but you're
Actually,
like,
but
I think he might
today-
drop kick my face.
Today, for his age, he
Oh my God, the guy's like
Is he like
a
105
ball of
now or
energy.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
no,
my God.
No.
Yeah.
You got.
You know
Don't get
what?
me wrong.
No. I'm not saying.
No,
I don't
look,
think. I don't think anything
no,
you're
I
saying
think
is
you
dis-
are. I think-
I really don't. I don't think it's disrespectful in any way. I just thought, as a thing, I'd go. He's actually surprisingly kind of solid.
And so
he's
this
never
is like
gonna die.
look,
He's gonna live
He's
forever.
never gonna die.
coming from a doughy person myself.
I mean, I'm a little doughy too.
We're all, we all certainly.
I'm not doughy.
Yeah.
No,
No, you're. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you, man.
For the record,
This guy-
Sean is not doughy at all.
No, this guy pukes up a breadstick.
I've been accused.
That's how I stay thin.
I know. He like models spit on him because he's the figure they want. Yeah,
right.
it's amazing.
I've been accused of some water retention now and then, but never.
I don't see it. I
Never,
don't see it at
like,
all.
never-
But getting back to Shatner, though.
Yeah.
But getting back to
no,
Shatner,
but
yes.
what I was saying is that he is one of those guys who, in almost everything he's done, even in things where he's clearly just over the top.
Yeah.
He brings a quality. He knows what he's
so
doing.
watchable.
He does.
I used
Yeah,
to
he
think
really
that
does.
that people would. I think people kind of slag him off, thinking that he is like, he's this overacting. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah,
I
agree.
could not agree with you more. And it's also, I think that people don't, and I'm not like a big Shatner, like of my top, he wouldn't be on my, it's Shatner, it's cool, I love him. But I think you're right, and also that it's the Shakespearean thing too.
Yeah.
It's like you go back and look at Richard Burton or look at Olivier or any of these guys.
Right.
They've got their thing. Yeah,
they got their thing, and you go, that's all Shatner's doing.
Yeah.
And just most people are probably looking around going, what the fuck's Bill doing today? He's like really. He's not finishing his sentences the way I thought he would. You know, you do kind of get the impression, like on the set, they were going, I'm not sure what he's doing, but he knows what he's doing. But
you watch that original Star Trek, and you've got Leonard Nimoy, who is, I would say, very nuanced often in the way that he would act.
Totally.
And you've got that played against Shatner, and it's perfect.
That's the thing.
I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Love
They play so well off each other.
What part of that, James, do you like? The Shatner Nimoy dynamic. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, James.
Well, I was going back to the sculpt of Shatner that Migo did that you were talking about, and I'm wondering, back then they didn't have the technology we have today.
No.
Does anybody? Was that a completely anonymous, like thankless labor?
Yeah.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a great
Good
question.
I'm going to answer it in two ways. One, at the time, the world didn't know, but thanks to guys like Brian Heiler, who is the guy I do a podcast with every month, Pod Stallions. He runs the Plaid Stallions
Stallions is
website
a fantastic website.
and co-founded the Migo Museum.
Oh, that thing is fantastic.
I love Migo
with
Museum.
Robin Adams. If you go to the Migo Museum, you will get all that information, and they have spent their lives, along with a lot of other
Acknowledging
people,
all the unsung
acknowledging all
heroes.
these
The
people.
Migo Museum is a physical museum?
No, I'm
or
sorry.
No,
It is an internet. It's an
And-
internet. Sorry, it's
Internet.
an
Where
internet
is it? Where
museum.
is it?
It's fantastic.
How could you find the Migo? MigoMuseum.com?
But it is near the Yellow Brick Road. If you go down to the right, the Miga Museum is down from the Yellow Brick Road, just to the right.
Right next to
Although, you know what? You could do.
And Willy Wonka's chocolate
Okay,
factory.
guys,
But
this is
you know
very
what?
funny, but there are
Is
some
it?
people
No.
listening who really want to know.
No, it's
does.
online. Just Google Migo Museum and you'll find this amazing source. And
Yeah,
and they
on
have
the internet.
interviewed a lot of these guys.
Cool.
That have. I mean, Brian knows. When we have these conversations, he knows the guys who sculpted the Star Trek: The Motion Picture. In the black hole figures.
Oh, the black hole
these key people at Migo that
That's
without
so awesome.
aid of computer, just on their own,
'cause
made
now they
these
just
great.
scan the whole
Yeah.
head
Yeah.
and it's
Right,
like,
right.
it's like nothing
Yeah.
now.
And can
Like-
still get it wrong sometimes.
Yeah,
That's true.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, you go back and look at some of the Migo, some of the even the 3 3/4 inch figures. You go, boy, that looks like DeForest Kelly.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
good.
Pretty
That's pretty
damn
good.
good.
Yeah,
You
there's a
know?
little art to it.
Yeah.
So I have to ask about another license that you got, which I know again a very popular series that you didn't really see much initial merchandise for, and that would be Twin Peaks.
Twin Peaks.
Because Twin Peaks is a plethora of unique, bizarre characters, perfect for action figures. How did that come about?
We talked about this a little bit earlier, off air, whatever it was, maybe before we started this, where it was like
At camp.
summer camp that time. No, it was in Meatballs. I think we were both in Meatballs.
We were both in the
We were
movies.
both in the movie.
Meatballs-
Obviously, that's
Meatballs
why we
Part
got it
2.
confused.
None of this that
we were in both.
none of this that we're talking about is much as I thought it was going to be. I'll get the house in the hills in the summers or whatever.
No?
This will do.
What?
It's like at the end of the day, you go, yeah, I made this thing. Like this was something that you can sort of step back at a certain point and go, there were other people involved. It took a long time. I didn't do it by myself, but the impetus of the whole thing was like, oh yeah, how come no one's done?
Yeah.
There are very cool moments alone in my deep, dark tea time of the soul at 4 a.m. where I'm standing amongst my treasures and go, yeah, I made that. Nobody cares, but
No,
some of the
we
things
care. We all care.
Yeah.
That's why
Doctor
you're
Who.
here.
The whole point behind Doctor Who.
I love all those figures, by the way. I went crazy for that
Thank
stuff.
you,
Yeah.
because the whole point was for people like you and
Yeah.
I that caught that thing in the afternoons during the weekdays as one part 2, part 3,
Sure,
part 4,
yeah.
and the idea was to emulate the Dennis Fisher stuff from the 70s, the 10-inch figures that were made
Perfect.
in 76, and to go, if you were into this in 78, 79 as a kid and wanted to look for it in a toy store,
Yeah.
this is what you would have seen.
Yes.
And we
Right.
did everything from the Dennis Fisher line, except we added a couple, or we missed the giant robot and we put in other stuff. Whatever. Anyway,
But you finally
was-
gave Leela justice,
yeah, we
Yeah,
did.
that's true.
And
where it actually looked like her.
when I was
Yeah.
a kid and I went to London, I was like 10 or 11 or something, and I thought Doctor Who was going to be everywhere, and
Right.
it wasn't. going back.
Sean and I both ran into that. It's a little harder to find than you would think.
Yeah.
Well, this was it's a long time ago, but it was like when the show when Baker was still
Sure,
and I thought, oh, it's going to be every street corner is going to have nothing, and to go back years later, having made the stuff, and go to like Forbidden Planet and go, oh yeah,
right.
Twin Peaks was this obsession of mine as several years ago when it was on, whatever age I was. I was 2 when it came out.
But it really made an impression.
But when it got announced for Showtime, because we already had the relationship with Showtime for Dexter and Weeds and Californication,
right.
and then Penny Dreadful. As soon as they announced it, we went right to Showtime and said, there's no way, it has to be.
Right.
And Funko got the action figures. That was an overall thing that they did a long time ago.
Right.
But we ended up making these bobbleheads and tins and playing cards and the mini bobble.
Yeah.
I would have made buttons. I didn't
Super
care.
soakers.
Sure, yeah.
The
no.
notion that we're suddenly in this universe and that it was even coming back was such a mind trip for me.
Right.
That it's a huge thing for me that this was.
Right.
And again, it had its detractors the second season. Although we won't get into that.
Well, I don't want to get into it because I was hugely disappointed.
But the first season is still to this day one of the greatest things.
Oh,
ever
yeah.
on
And
television.
I would even defend the second season.
Oh no, I'm not
I
talking about
defend bits of the second
Oh,
season.
no, I'm not
I
talking
think-
about the second season. I mean the new.
No.
Oh, I
well,
love the new one.
But for,
I love
well,
it. I
but-
adore it.
But
I
let's talk
love
about
every bit of it.
The second season, I would argue that they played around in the middle, and then by the end, they went back to the original horrific, scary part of Twin Peaks and wrapped it up pretty nicely.
I think you can argue that there was enough balance between the super goofy where it went, and the creepy.
Yes.
Right.
I totally agree with that. It's just there are bits that sort of
No, they're a little jumping the sharkish.
But that first season
there's a little
is like perfect.
there's a bit of Mickey Rooney in Breakfast at Tiffany's in some season 2 that kind of
When's that figure coming out?
Yeah. Okay, let's fast forward this bit.
Biff Bang Pow closes.
I don't think you need to make that figure.
Jason, since
I'm just saying
you,
there's bits of that. Yes, sorry.
Since
Go
you
ahead.
bring that up, what percentage do you think? Like it's a labor of love, obviously, but it's also you've got business considerations. What percentage do you think is that part of you that's like, this is the toy that I want, so I'm going to go ahead and make it, versus, well, this is what might sell and this is what the market demands. What percentage do you think is that and the other?
It's a great question. It's at the end of the day, it's always got to be, if we feel like this, whatever it is, Flash Gordon we got twice, back when it kicked off, and then we sort of came back to it again. And I thought after Ted, when Ted hit,
right, because Sam Jones is suddenly like, wow,
Yes,
I remember seeing that, thinking someone else likes this movie as much. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
We went back to it. So we made 3 3/4 inch figures, and we made some other stuff. We had a whole slew of stuff. We had prop replicas. We had Ming's ring with sound that was going to light up the whole thing. So we started designing and producing prototypes, and nobody cared. We couldn't get enough interest, and so that's the kind of thing where I go, as much as I want this, it doesn't make sense. We simply can't. We can't do it. So I keep being grateful for what we did do. But that's always the priority, is like whether it makes sense to do it or not.
How do you factor in something like we were talking about the pop figures? Okay, which to me is something. It's sort of, I guess it's jumping off of the concept of a bobblehead.
Yeah,
like you said, more like an ornament. Almost.
Yeah.
It's like a little thing.
But
to have
it
on
is,
your desk.
I will give it absolute credit for being something new. I mean, whether I like it or not doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is it's popular and it's something different. It looks different than things we've seen in the past. And I would think that would be kind of the thing that keeps you up at night when you're launching. Like, how do you get to a place where you go, I got an idea for something that no one's seen? It's not a Mego style figure. It's not a traditional bobblehead.
It's not a style of toy.
It's a style. It's a new style of toy.
Yeah.
And, the guys in the back seem to really enjoy it. Let's give it a try.
Right.
And how do you get to that place where you go, we think it's cool, to let's make it? And how many different people do you have to sign off with to get to that place where, okay, we're going to do it?
That's tricky, because the 2 things that come to mind, one was the you remember the Snoopy snow cone maker
Oh
thing.
yes.
Yes, yeah.
Yes.
Very
Yes.
popular.
We had designed this kids' cocaine factory that was sort of this thing sort of turns. and the
Wait. Whoa.
kids
Whoa. Whoa.
put
Whoa.
the-
Wait. What?
It didn't get past the drawing board, but we sort of went.
Is this a joke?
This could really take off. Maybe we shouldn't, though. I don't know.
Oh,
Then we moved on to these pinmates, and I think the pinmates. Yes, it's a joke. I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
I'm sad
the
now.
The pinmates are the kind of thing that it's kind of like it's sort of certain licenses, let's say, and you go, we want to do this, we want to do that. And you go, oh, you know what? We've got these categories, and you go, oh yeah, wood, huh? Wooden,
Yeah.
that's fun. And you go,
for the listeners, these pinmates, they're like old Fisher Price figures. That's what I think. They're
Yeah.
little made out of wood.
Yeah.
And it's something. When I saw these for the first time, immediately I felt like, oh my god, I remember 3 years old playing with the Fisher Price
Yeah.
figures.
the airplane.
Keeping
You had
doing
the
the
airplane,
box.
I had the
right?
airplane.
Yeah.
We had the parking garage.
Wasn't
Yes,
it-
I had the parking garage, yeah.
We had the farm. We had. I mean,
Yeah.
I had
dude,
the Fisher Price abattoir.
Yeah.
Abattoir, very
No, no,
rare.
I had the
Very
Russ
hard to
Meyer
find.
set.
Okay. We had the circus because
Circus. I had Vampire Circus,
I had-
actually. Very rare box set from Vampire
Okay,
Circus.
this is all very funny, but
But
that's
Larry,
sorry.
it's
I-
not
no,
funny, actually.
I
It's a
just want-
monster show. I thought I could
I
throw
know,
in a
but I
Vampire
just-
Circus.
I want to give people.
He's staying on topic.
Actual,
trying to stay on
I want to
topic.
give people actual information. My
Yes,
brothers
sorry.
who are older than me, that were one was born in like the 50s, okay, and so they had the circus. The
I remember the
Fisher-Price
circus.
Yeah.
I remember it, yeah.
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 But there would, and I remember it was a couple years back. You guys were doing the classic Star Trek bridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
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 And so
Yeah.
I used to always when my mom used to be on a bowling league when I was
That's
growing
fantastic.
up. She was part of this bowling league, and so she dragged me to the bowling alley, and you know,
Wow.
rather than let me bowl because that would have been fun, she threw me into the room where everybody else's kid was, you know, and there were these
Right.
like the people who weren't horrible enough to be nuns were now taking care of the kids back then.
Right.
And there was always like a bunch of wooden puzzles and things like that.
This is such a good story.
Yeah, and I
Your
remember-
mom would take and just go, I got to
Oh yeah, no, they dump you off in this thing, and like the high point. If a great day would be, they'd have the 16mm projector, and they'd be showing some like Three Stooges shorts.
Oh.
But most of the time, it wasn't even that. It was like you'd go in there, and I clearly remember this. We're like asking for a puzzle. They give me a puzzle. The puzzle has 9 pieces. I finished the puzzle in under 10 seconds. And I bring the puzzle back and I go, can I have another puzzle? And the woman goes, no! Go away! And it was terrible. It was horrible.
You were in high school, though, right, at the time?
Look, it was a great
I love
way to meet people.
They would show Three Stooges. Then I just imagine you showing up one day going, oh, here comes the, and it's like Fatty Arbuckle. They found out. They found it terrible.
And not even the short, a documentary about him. No, it's terrible.
But did they have
no,
Fisher-Price
so what I'm
figures
saying
there?
is that like if it seems like in this room,
yeah.
it seemed like all the toys were like they weren't the top of the line new toys.
Sure.
They were the
Right.
toys that I guess someone someone died
had left
and
had left
in the 20s
Yeah.
and had they it was an estate sale, and they like picked up all the toys. So everything
All the
was
rusty
dangerous.
toys.
Everything was rusty and splinters and
Sticky.
and but in my fantasy in my head, I think if I had walked into that place and in the corner hidden was that little wooden Enterprise set with the cast.
Right,
And I
right.
went, fuck, I don't need any puzzles. Take your 9-piece. Even if you offered me an 11-piece puzzle, I'd spit in your face because I've got this. And that's what those toys, and it's a strange, weird,
no, that is
circuitous
it.
way to sense memory of like, I look at those toys and I go, that ignites like this nostalgic thing in me.
You know what? In an odd way, that might be the nicest thing you've ever said. That might be.
I swear to
That
God.
might be a Hallmark movie right there.
I swear to God, though, that is what went
That's
through my
fantastic.
mind
You know, the
when
thing
I
is,
saw him.
I know what you're talking about. I can smell the bowling alley. I know
Yes.
these other kids.
Yeah.
I know the shitty toys that were sitting there.
Yeah.
The fact that you'd pine for like you're looking at like metal toys or an old sled or something.
Yeah, there's like and the puzzles weren't even like licensed. They were like forgotten character, like a little Nemo, knockoff.
Right.
Sluggo.
Yeah, it was like
Sluggo.
No Nancy, just Sluggo.
Just Sluggo everything. Nothing but Sluggo puzzles.
Right, yeah.
And you're like going, you're not pining for Big Jim or $6 million
The
man.
Jolly Green regular size
You'd
person.
be happy with a wooden toy that didn't have splinters in it, or if it was like just give me something slightly modern. Or that's an amazing story.
Yeah, I know. That's why
a great story.
When I look at that, like that really, especially that bridge was a thing of like, and then my next thing was like, now I want to light it. You know what I mean, with the cool vintage Star Trek lighting.
I thought now I pictured the kid like going over the edge, going, "I wish I had some matches."
That's Sean.
That's Shawn Sheridan.
That's Shawn Sheridan. Yeah,
I'd burn this place down to the ground.
I wish I would have gone to the bowling lane room with Shawn Sheridan. 'Cause he would have showed those fuckers. He would have like.
He always carried a pack of matches.
Yeah.
With him,
He like, I don't get another puzzle, huh?
Nothing wrong with that.
Let me.
Also,
Yeah.
what are the figures? Is it the Russian dolls that go inside each other?
Yes, we made those.
Yeah, those
we
are
made
great.
those
Those
for
are great.
DC
Those
and
are
Warner.
Yeah,
and,
that's
Marvel.
what these kind of remind me of too a little bit.
Oh,
It's that kind of
nice.
style. But yeah, they are really.
I was actually
appealing.
going to bring you guys. There was a set of the DC. The
You can go home and get them and bring them
I
back
was
if you
going to
want.
bring. I
Yeah.
thought I'll bring this stuff.
How
instead.
far away do you live?
Not far.
Okay.
I'll be back.
We'll
tonight.
wait.
I'll be back
Jason,
sometime
This
tonight.
is great.
Jason, I wanted to ask you though.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's
That's such a great story.
As
man.
of right
God,
now,
I love that so much.
As of right now, what is kind of a dream toy line for you? Or
Yes,
a dream,
yes.
a dream,
boy.
property that you want to get or would like to try to get.
Because we have a lot of pull in this industry.
old or new.
Well, you know what? This is what's kind of fascinating about this whole thing is one of the things that sort of, besides thinking, well, I can do something else that it might earn or whatever, was Cheech and Chong action figures. Monty Python, the Holy Grail, and I kept going.
Yeah.
What? There's all this. Stuff that's happening, being made into figures that never would have happened.
Yeah.
What is
Right.
going on? And that was part of the appeal too. Was like, this might be the time to try to do something like this. So, having said that, there was a time for a while that we were talking. It's a long story. It's not easy, believe me.
Can you shorten it?
Well, I'm just saying that it's. I don't want to say too much, but it's whoever had the rights for Monty Python at the time.
Okay.
It would have covered television series, all the movies.
Oh, wow.
everything.
Oh,
And
wow.
We made a spreadsheet of everything we
Oh
were
my
going to do
gosh.
for the next 3 years. The whole thing, and
Jeez.
it didn't happen for a
Right.
number of reasons. But if I could, I would do because I think about the short list of stuff. It would really all that's left is like Star Wars, obviously, but that's a very, very tricky thing. 'Cause
Right, and so
I'm
competitive.
talking 77 to 80,
And that's almost. I mean,
81.
unless you can really, unless there's something that you like, I'm going to make a shit ton of money.
The holiday special. Where are the figures?
That's
Dude.
good.
Dude, I think I'd go even further than that.
Okay.
I'd make the figures for the animated series you wanted as a kid. I'd take that holiday special cartoon and go,
Yeah.
what if this was
yeah.
a fucking weekly show?
The Boba Fett.
Yeah,
Like all of them.
all
of
the
them.
caricatures of in that animated
I'd
sequence
do that.
are great.
Like
Yeah,
Disney
yeah.
Store's doing these
Hey,
things right now that are kind of sort of like that.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna say the three that I'd probably go: Beatles, James Bond, Monty Python. Those would be the things that I'd
James.
go. I could go mental with
my
with
God.
those
Yeah,
three.
yeah.
With what and David Bowie. I'd probably do David Bowie.
Oh, that's good. Oh,
yeah.
I'd
And
be all
Queen.
over that.
And Queen
What about
and Leo Sayer.
you make me feel? No, we can't afford it. You have the Twilight Zone
Yes.
franchise.
Yes.
What about Night Gallery? We brought it up before. What is that? Because I guess that's a whole different studio and everything.
Right, yeah.
And imagine you have a figure, and then behind it you have a little painting,
Like a
that
different
beautiful
painting for
little
each
frame.
figure, yeah.
Come on,
I'm with you. I went to that show. I saw you at that show.
Yes, you did.
I went to the-
Yes, you did.
creature features. Yes,
I went to the
recently.
preview night thing
Had
to see
original-
what was there, and I
original
got an
Night
original
Gallery.
piece. I got an original Sterling piece from that somebody did.
Nice.
Here's the thing. Let's be honest.
Okay.
Like, how many friends do you have, roughly?
3.
How many friends? How many
And they're
friends?
not here. They're not here.
Let's go around the table.
Yeah.
How many friends do you have?
2.
How many friends do you have? Let's expand. Let's expand it. Sorry, can we expand to acquaintances? How many
friends
acquaintances?
who would be into buying Night
just
Gallery?
generally.
Seven?
Well, I was going to say is
your dog, right? The dog.
as a general kind of thing with how many
Yeah,
friends
it's
you have.
even more.
You
yeah.
get, you get
point.
You get 100 people in a room. You get 100 people in a room.
Yeah.
Ages 30, 25, 30 to 55,
Sure.
let's say.
Okay.
And go around and see how many people know Night Gallery.
Okay.
No, you're right.
And then do it again and see who knows Twilight Zone.
Right.
Oh yeah, sure.
Everybody knows
But-
Twilight Zone. As good as, and I'm not, again, denigrating in any way.
Right.
It's just that you go, oh yeah, Lawrence Harvey figure would be really.
yeah. With
Yes.
with a little detachable ear.
Any
You know,
Lawrence Harvey
you know,
figure.
what's the
Yeah.
mo- what's the
Can we do a
monster-
Manchurian Candidate?
what's the- what's
Pickman's
the-
model?
What's the monster short where Dracula goes in to arrange his own funeral?
Oh yeah,
And,
right.
like,
yeah,
every-
yeah.
Every comedy.
I
Every
forget what
comedy actor shows
Yeah.
up like in a werewolf wig
Yeah.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
That should make your money back right
Yeah,
there.
that's
right?
it. That's it. That'll pay for the license right
Well,
there.
no. One thing that I was surprised about, because Taylor at Creature Features was saying that the Night Gallery show was one of his biggest shows.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Oh
That's
totally.
interesting.
And so now I realize that we're talking to a Monster Kid audience
Sure.
of people who love that stuff.
We're also the cultural elite. I don't know if you know
Yeah.
that.
And I wish and
Sorry.
well, and you're right. I mean, Twilight Zone is in rotation all over the place.
Yeah, it's. I
And
mean,
Night
it's,
Gallery
You just
isn't.
know the name. Now, I would say,
that's the
new,
thing.
Every
Yeah.
New
That's the
Year,
thing.
New Year's Eve, they always do the marathon.
Yes.
of
Sure,
Twilight
sure.
Zone.
Yeah.
But I would say that, Jason, how you said like how Spaced kind of almost a lot of ways got things going.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
A British show. Now I don't know if you're familiar with this show, but this is a series that I am dying for figures that have never been figures for. I don't know if you know the show Red Dwarf.
I know Red Dwarf.
Red
Absolutely.
Dwarf is a fantastic show. It's
I think you
still
might make some money
still
on
going,
those.
and I think that's popular enough.
I
that,
think so.
they would-
It's funny
I'd
you say
love
it.
to have figures for
There
that.
was.
Tell us why we were wrong.
It's not that you're wrong. There was a great company that flew the flag for Doctor Who when no one else was before the show came back, called Product Enterprise,
Yes.
Okay.
and they
I have a
started.
lot of their stuff.
They started with the remote control
Yep.
Daleks, and
Got
they
it.
made a
Right.
talking Tom Baker,
Yep,
and
got
then and then they made the 12-inch figures of the Avengers of John Steed,
we have
which
them.
we have and are so
which
beautiful.
I've got both.
Yeah.
Sets.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
so
so
great.
great.
So
I mean,
great.
absolutely stunning.
Great.
Fantastic.
Then they made some carry-on stuff. I mean, they were going,
Yeah.
we're going to do this stuff, and they made the bug.
They did the Starbug.
They did the
yes,
Starbug, yeah.
Fantastic. We
Yeah,
have
yeah,
that. It's
yeah.
great. But no
And-
figures.
and
No
he-
Lister and Rimmer and Crichton.
And I remember my first going to New York Toy Fair to sort of start shaking hands and stuff. And I would walk around, and it's Product Enterprise. I went, oh, I know these guys. But I was got sort of chummy, and before I left, he gave me the Davros, the remote.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I love
It was
that.
on
Yeah.
display. And
Yeah.
I went, I gotta. He goes, why don't you just take it?
Oh, that's
Because
so great.
It's like it's less shit for us to take back. And the packaging for the stuff. The artist that they
Beautiful.
got, who did one of the UK quad for Evil Dead 2.
Oh, is that the same
The
artist?
same artist.
Oh, I love that poster.
They
I have it
sponsored-
signed.
They sponsored a gallery thing for him, for his art that they did. I've got the booklet, but I couldn't get to it. And he sent me 5 of the prints.
Oh my God.
They made prints based off of his work on the packaging. Nice. And he did, and one of them is a hammer piece.
Nice.
Where he's got a hammer in the middle, and then like Oliver Reed and Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing,
gosh.
and they're all signed by this. But it was like, that's who the guy was. He'd be like, yeah, I'll send you this,
that's
I'll send you
great.
that.
Jeez.
Anyway, he did the Red Dwarf thing, and it was like he went, I couldn't. I know there's a huge audience, but I didn't really move these. It cost us a bundle, and they had a lot of bad luck with shipments lighting on fire across the ocean. and
Okay,
shit.
well, there's
Sean,
that.
Sean.
How do you,
but they couldn't
across the ocean? It's lighting on fire.
He'd tell me you're not gonna believe what happened. Like half our shipment was on fire in a
Now,
tanker.
I would also say that maybe the carry-on stuff, maybe a little,
Not here, but
No?
but I'm saying yes. You're right. That would have been maybe a bridge too far.
Yeah. But you mentioned
in
the
the UK,
Avengers, though.
it's kind of an institution.
But even the
Yeah.
Starbug, we both have it.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful.
fantastic.
But it's
Yeah.
a lot of pieces.
Oh,
And
yeah, but it's a ship. It's very different.
I
I
know,
mean, it's,
but
yeah.
what I'm saying is that I would think that the overhead in that was pretty high because there's a lot
yeah.
of different things as opposed to a figure.
There's
Right.
you got
Figure.
Well, look at the Tom Baker. They took sound chips off of I think it was Ark in Space or something for that.
Okay.
smaller
Yes. Yeah.
figure.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
There's 3 joints in the whole thing. And
Yeah, yeah.
No,
whatever.
and it
So,
didn't go any.
Well, it did, but like they could have made those Daleks. They were doing so well off of those before the show, the new show
Yes,
came back.
yeah. Right.
They could have made that for the rest of forever.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
It just they made it in every variation you could possibly think.
Well, you mentioned the Avengers. Another figure that just one figure that I can't believe they haven't made yet. Somebody is Patrick McGowan as the prisoner.
Licensing.
So like his likeness.
There's something to do. I don't know what it is, but I
yeah.
know people have tried.
Yeah. Okay. Because it's another dream figure for me.
Now,
That'd be
now
awesome.
Jason, here's
Make it
what
with
I
like
want.
an inflatable rover.
Yeah. Anybody can make that.
Here's the thing that gets me though. I mean, you have made some really great toys, but I'm
thank
actually
you.
very concerned about the world of toys in general. And
Yeah,
I'll
where
tell
is
you,
it
no,
going?
I'll tell you why.
Is this a metaphor for?
No. Well, and maybe if you listen to me,
Okay,
maybe
sorry.
I can explain myself. Okay. Yeah,
Well,
okay.
Can I
Had
get
to
a
come.
drink real quick before we?
Here's the thing. When after World War II and people came home in the 1950s, you had like this baby boomers, big explosion
Yeah,
of
yeah,
kids.
yeah.
Well, as we get into the 2000 stuff, it seems like there are less kids. There are less kids. You don't have these large families anymore, and what's happening now is kids today. They're not so much into figures. Maybe they're more into like a game or having like the little video game experience.
Yeah.
And so here you have just within the past 10 years, you had FAO Schwartz, big toy store goes away.
Yeah.
KB Toys goes away. The big news really is Toys R Us, which was such a staple, when I was a kid, is going away. And they're saying, well, Toys R Us couldn't really compete with the Walmart or the Target. And
Online is really what we're talking about.
But here's the thing. Now you've got these, if it's like a Target and a Walmart who are saying, oh, we don't want that spooky toy in our store. I'm wondering, what is that going to do to the toy industry? Number one, it's like, there aren't as many kids. Now it's like toy companies really got to struggle and fight to try to get that big popular toy, and then somebody like you, it's like, where are you selling that toy?
Again, this is. I don't want to get too cosmic on you guys, but this is an interesting question, a very fascinating question, because we wouldn't be talking about. I firmly believe this. We would not be talking about 12-inch figures of the Avengers or. To note, but seriously, to toot my own horn, like the Twilight Zone stuff or the this or that. If certain people hadn't grown up from a certain era to go, it would be really cool to see like Flash Gordon, like that movie, and yes, there is a world pre 77, 78 Kenner puzzles and figures and everything else. And because I heard that episode when you guys were arguing about that.
Yes, yeah,
But no,
right.
but
No, yeah.
I go to the Mego generation where those people that all sort of grew up and started doing toy things and whatever. So here we are getting these things that wouldn't have existed without all these kids growing up with all these toys that we loved and going, I wonder if you could apply that to this license or to this property. And yet you've got a generation, I think, at least of people that, or maybe younger kids that, I don't know how much they're very hip. They're very they get into some retro stuff, but I don't know who is out there going, why this is really cool. I don't know, because everything seems very, very fleeting.
I actually go out of my way. My kid, my 12-year-old.
You have one.
I have
12-year-old?
one. I have one, and she is, maybe because I'm that kind of dad that showed her classic Twilight Zone, classic Star.
Yeah.
And she's really gotten into it,
Yeah.
but. When she talks about it to some of her friends at school, they have no clue.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like my kid is
Yeah.
almost educated, but you know what I mean?
Sure. I mean, kids now have different interests in different ways that they express their fandom. But we're not only talking about the licensing of stuff, from our age, trying to sell that to a younger audience, because at this point, at least, there are a lot of people who are buying toys, I think, that are of our age and older who buy that stuff. Now, granted, they're not going to last for that much longer. But when we're talking about buying something in a store, the difference is that kids now also live in a different world. In our day, you went to a toy store to buy a toy.
Yeah.
Or you went to some kind of store to buy a toy.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, you'd mail away for something and wait for years,
4 to 6 weeks.
for it to get
lifetime.
there. If you
Yeah.
were lucky,
Yeah.
4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, but for the most part, we went into a store, and
Yeah.
now people just do other shopping online. That's
Yeah.
why it wasn't really surprising to me that Toys R Us was closing their doors, because why would you have a brick and mortar store?
Right, but also I think it's also that there's more of everything now. So like,
you're competing.
and everything is so accessible so easily.
Yes, yeah.
So nothing is as special. Like us growing up as kids watching Star Trek, there wasn't like 30 other shows on Netflix that are sci-fi. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's so much more of everything. So we had our special things that were like, I always think about, like, we had our little club of like, we were guys into horror and sci-fi, and now we're adults. Some of us are making this stuff now, so we remember it. But like, I guess for younger generations, how much stuff is special to them that's being made now? I don't know.
I think it's a double-edged sword. I think it's kind of like, I truly think that, in a way, we're living in a golden age right now. That
Oh, I know that.
that as mediocre as a lot of stuff is, everywhere you turn, there's another option for something to get into or
Yes.
to go.
Oh, yeah.
Wow,
It's maddening sometimes.
It truly is. And there's plenty of stuff that people latch on until you go, okay, I don't know why that's such a thing or whatever. But Comic-Con in 12 or 13 years that I've been going, it's been like this all-inclusive thing that it wasn't 13 years ago.
Yeah.
And everything you can imagine. And if you can't find a freak flag to fly down there, you're not looking hard enough,
Right,
you know?
right.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I don't know how much is permanent.
right,
well,
right.
I don't know how much is
Yeah.
like
Is
like Lost was a phenomenon. Like it was
I
like
know
there were a
it
couple,
was.
but there were a couple years that you walked
Sure,
around
yes.
Comic-Con, and so and they came over to us and went, "Oh my God, we
Yeah.
love your, Lindelof loves your Dexter stuff. Let's make something."
And it was great.
Right,
and
right.
and then it was done.
Yeah.
and
Then
then it
it's-
was gone.
yeah, then
and
it's-
so
yeah,
I don't know
right.
where the prison. I mean, talking about something like
Yeah.
The Prisoner, like it's it's
Yeah.
iconic. Over after was it 18 episodes or 17?
Yeah, one season.
One
Was
season,
Yeah.
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 Well, here's something that I think crosses the generations, and it's something that we all like. And I know you, Larry, have shared some of the history of where this came from, but the vinyl toy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the vinyl toy is something that
I love a good vinyl toy.
me too. I
The
mean, I think
smell of vinyl
and they
toy.
really feel in a strange way, even though they're hollow.
Yeah.
They feel very substantial.
Very
yeah.
tactile.
Yeah, and they're very tactile. And what is interesting is that this is something that started. And Larry, you could give us some history, because I asked you once. I was unsure of really the genesis of the vinyl toy, and it became so popular and so ubiquitous in Japan. And you once explained to me, so what was the deal? Like, I guess for the longest time, especially in America, there were a lot of tin toys.
Yeah. And,
But then was it the war?
Yeah. After World War II, when a lot of Japan had been devastated, to try to get Japan back on its feet, the United States actually helped and gave materials to Japan to kind of help. And so what they did is some companies or I should say factories started to produce electronic things, cheap electronic things, or some did toys. And there are some great stories about how some of the sheets of metal that were given to Japan companies, some of them kind of had maybe American labels kind of stuck to it or something like that. And like for example, maybe like a Campbell soup or a Del Monte green peas or
So
something.
if you looked
like
on
that.
the inside of a toy or something,
Sometimes.
or like
They're one of the first wind-up toys that was made was a little guy called Atomic Robot Man, which I have one. And sometimes if you look inside, some of those may actually have paper from an actual.
Is that right?
Yeah,
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. But it's a great little toy. But the vinyl figures, I mean, that came a little later. And I think one of the things is you make a mold for the figure, and you pour the stuff in, and I think it was one of those ways, a cheaper way to make a toy.
So you didn't have like with a G.I. Joe or something. There's so many thick parts
exactly,
and
exactly.
metal
All
and
articulate. Yeah, exactly.
Whereas this was just these things you could just press out.
If you think about
put them together
with a vinyl figure, if you make a mold and you just like 2 arms, 2 legs, and maybe the body and the head is all one piece.
Okay.
Right.
And when it comes out of, when you pour the stuff in and it comes out, it's kind of hot, and you're able to put the legs and the arms in kind of quickly. And sometimes you like spray it with a little paint.
It can be sometimes a very basic paint job.
Exactly.
But you can
Yeah.
get a lot of detail. Though.
Yeah, and,
Yes,
and
yeah.
you know, when we were kids, sometimes you got a plastic toy that maybe it wasn't painted very well or something, but you used your imagination to imagine that this is like an Ultraman or an Ultraman monster.
Right.
But then later, like in our adult lives, I mean, like when I first saw the Japanese Bandai Godzilla figures, I like freaked out. I mean, it was like realistic, screen accurate figures of all the Godzilla characters from all the Showa films. It was like I couldn't get enough of them.
And even with the primitive paint jobs,
they were able
there was
a
a
charm to them. It was
yeah.
almost like
like
the
an art
vinyl-
piece.
Yeah, the vinyl equivalent of Amigo figure in a way. It was just like they're like not super perfect, amazingly super accurate, but they're just accurate enough. I mean, they're good. They're like great.
And when we all saw Godzilla versus the Smog Monster and saw the scene with the little kid playing with the vinyl toys,
Right, we
were
talked
like,
about that before. Right,
Where
it's
can we
like,
get that?
yeah,
And we
yeah.
couldn't. It was impossible to find those. So,
Right.
so when Bandai started to import them or
Right.
export them here,
I still-
and
yeah.
you found them at places like Forbidden Planet
Or Wacko and Melrose.
you went nuts.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Jason, I'm sure you've heard the show. I've told this story hundreds of times, but it's like when Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster came out and I saw that scene as a kid,
Right.
and I flipped and my head exploded. And I said, it may not be tomorrow, it may not be next week or next year, but one day I will have those toys that I see going down that slide. And it took me
Wow.
over 20 years, but eventually I went to Japan in '89, and I was able to track down those toys, which I have in my
Wow.
collection. But then, of course, this is before eBay and everything
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
like
Right,
that.
yeah.
But they're like some of the most precious toys that I have in my collection. But like you guys, I mean, I love a vinyl toy. The smell of a vinyl toy, it's just,
And it's funny too how it's gone from a cheap way to make a toy to now a vinyl toy
Yeah.
when something comes out, especially when you get those show exclusives.
Yeah.
yeah,
And they're 200 or more,
Yeah.
and I guess has to do with it's such a limited run.
Well, there's that, and I just love. I think the best word you used was charming.
Yeah.
There's such a
Yeah,
charm to
yeah.
these
Yes,
things.
It really
yeah.
is.
That the notion of taking something that was so just kind of get it out there. It's not, and turning it into this limited thing,
Yeah,
and making
yeah.
it more sexy is like it's really fun. It's all this stuff is about. I think is finding a new way to riff on something.
Yeah.
like that. And I love that. That's how it's taken off.
And that's something now with, there's a whole new audience that is
Yeah.
into these
Yeah, yeah.
vinyl figures that don't have anything to do with any particular licensed character.
Right.
It's become this platform for a new kind of
creativity,
pop
yeah.
art. And
Pop
it's,
art.
yeah.
And artists who are making a name
Yeah.
for themselves.
And by the way,
yeah.
we have a special surprise too,
That's right.
because we have some pioneers in that area, and we'd like to bring them on, if that's okay.
It's okay with me.
These next two guests, surprise guests, are
bonus guest.
bonus guests.
Bonus guests.
Yes.
Surprise.
One of them you may be familiar with. He is a smooth young man,
yes, yes,
a tantalizing creature.
our unpaid Monster Party intern.
That's right. He went with us to Japan.
Oh, what a
right.
time!
He loves toys as much as the rest of us, but he's gone a step further
Yes, he has.
because he, along with our other guest, have started a toy company.
Right.
Who we have here is Kevin Smith.
Kevin
the,
Smith.
The good one.
Yes,
And his partner, Michelle Olivier.
Michelle Olivier.
Who is his business partner.
Yeah.
And can I say personal partner as well?
Yes. And lover.
And lover. Isn't lover kind of creepy?
It's disgusting.
It's a little creepy.
It's really gross.
Hello,
he's
lover.
He's my
smooth.
lover.
He's
She's
just
my
so
lover.
Smooth. Can't resist him.
No. I just look at his face and I just go, deal closed right
Yeah.
now. I don't even need. I don't need to know anymore.
But speaking of smooth,
You bet your boots, lover.
you have Kevin. You have come up with these
Yes, sir.
amazing vinyl toys.
Yes.
Thank you.
Could you
Thank
tell
you.
us a bit about?
Yes, because we did the
process-
wonderful
yeah.
lead-in.
No, I mean,
you
tell
did.
me
It was
how
great.
you came about this.
So I guess I'll start with this. Is it cool if I do the history of sofubi real quick?
Yes,
Just real quick.
please.
Just
Go for it.
Spark
Yeah,
Notes
what is
version.
sofubi?
Okay.
They're a
Sofubi
terrific
is-
band.
Yes. So sofubi is a Japanese word meaning soft binu or soft vinyl. And
But you knew that.
But you guys knew that. And as Larry was saying, it came after the decline of tin toys because of the
Yeah.
war effort.
Yeah.
From what he was saying, tin became too expensive, and
Yeah.
you couldn't waste it if you were at war. So Japan lost the war, and we
What?
Yes.
Which
spoiler?
War? Which war are we talking about?
The Second World War.
Okay.
But
I was thinking the Shogun, the miniseries.
Two of
Shogun.
them?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'm
go ahead.
Completely behind.
So we occupied Japan for a good 9 years, and during that we created jobs for the Japanese, high labor, low paying jobs.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Right.
But with that came sofubi, which is a cheap plastic, cheap back then, cheap plastic toys that came about in the 60s and
Yeah.
70s after the advent of Ultraman, Godzilla, Kamen Rider, all that stuff. It just kind of blew up between the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
And was that vinyl as we know it today, or is that was a cheaper grade of vinyl?
It was probably a cheaper grade. You had your first companies, Bullmark, Marusan, things like that.
Right. Oh, yeah, we know those
you
names
guys
well.
know those names, Popey, things like that. But they went, I think Marusan went out of business, but they got bought up by some of the other newer companies, Metacom, Gigabrain, Marmot. You guys know those,
Yep.
CCP.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we have a lot of that.
You have
Yes.
yeah, you guys
I have
got a
But
lot
But some
of
of the listeners might not know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is all very
Now-
educational.
Now you
Yes.
know. Yeah, Google those. So basically, they made a lot of Godzilla toys, licensed toys, things like that. But around the 90s, a lot of collectors in and out of Japan looked at these toys as kind of an art form. And since then, it's kind of started an underground movement with a lot of artists and illustrators out there now in America who want to make these toys. So we've kind of started ourselves.
And this is like unlicensed. This is like original things.
this is
as-
your
as-
character.
as
This
opposed
is
to
my-
things based on movies or
Exactly.
shows.
You designed this character.
I hand sculpted this myself.
Wow.
I cast it in resin myself. I sent it to a factory myself. Spent a buttload of shipping
He
on
cried
that.
by
I
himself.
cried by myself.
we all cry a little.
We've
bit.
all been there.
Yeah,
His
we all
hands
been
are
there.
bleeding.
And then from there, I mean, if you want, I can talk about the process.
Yeah, I need.
Okay.
We
go
were
ahead.
we were talking when Kevin, when you first showed these to us.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? How did you? I mean, so you had this idea. Did you draw it out first, and then you made it out of like Play-Doh, or what
Talk
did you
us
do?
talk us through the process.
Okay, so as you guys know, I've loved monster toys since I was very little. And, you know, Godzilla's my favorite, things like that. So naturally, I wanted the Japanese toys, so I always loved those. But
Right.
since I saw that, I've always wanted to do it since high school. But, you know, I'm 25 now, just graduated from, I just got my bachelor's, and I said, why not? I'll give it a shot. So
Right.
I got this great product called Monster Clay, which is an oil-based clay, hand sculpted myself, holds a lot of good detail. So I sculpted this thing, made some joints here and there, and then I cast it in resin. I bought some silicone, which you can buy on Amazon. You can do this, silicone and resin, and then you make a
Yeah, he's
mold.
got the cast right
I have
here.
the cast right here. I made it with Legos.
What?
These
What?
are- I see the pegs.
Yeah.
yeah. This is all
wait,
made with Legos.
So you made like a little Lego container kind of, and
so
you
I
poured the.
put it around the clay. I let it harden. I peeled this out, took the clay out, and then I pour in the resin mix. And then when that's done, you kind of peel it away, and you got your little resin
Wow.
master.
Wow, that's great.
So cool.
So you get your master. You
Okay.
know, you clean it up a little bit, and then you're going to have some air holes, so you're
Right.
going to want to putty all that.
Right.
It's a
That's
lot
still
of
allow
work.
the figure to breathe.
Yeah,
right.
it's-
Got
it's
it.
a lot of work, but anybody can do this.
Well, I don't think. I don't know. You're Mr. Artist. You make it think that anyone can do this.
I believe
But
in you guys.
You fucking.
Sorry.
I was gonna say you give this to Matt Weinhold. Or
No.
Sean Sheridan. It'll catch fire. It will.
Look, I can make a pipe out of a carrot. But
Yeah.
That takes some
Yeah.
that's his
talent.
yeah.
I knew a
its own
couple
unique
people that did
talent.
that.
Right.
But-
Yeah, you. This is that's amazing.
Thank
you.
Sort
Thank
of.
you.
This is. I mean,
This is the toy guy talking.
no, but I'm just
It
saying.
means a lot.
I don't.
The toy
This is
guy.
not my bag. Like no. What I mean is, I don't mean that. I meant that
That was very
physical-
Love American style.
the physical sort of like process of doing it. It's like
Yeah.
It's
you know,
a really intimate process.
I don't like
Yeah,
getting my
yeah,
hands
really.
dirty. So
No, I'm
it's-
with you. Yeah,
Get
no.
other people to do the work.
Yeah,
Because I
and I-
know.
and I don't-
But I'm saying that
That's why the
not
toilet's
just
broken.
anybody can do that. Like
No,
that's
thank you.
pretty.
Thank
That's
you.
pretty.
And I don't
impressive.
mean this word in a bad way, but I mean it's great to have you here as like the commodity versus the fine art, I guess you'd call it, juxtaposition.
Oh,
between-
thanks, man.
Yeah, like
I think
Yeah,
that
yeah.
no, I
means
don't
the
mean
compliment.
like commodity is like you're a square. I mean like You make
Okay, how old are you
no,
again?
No. You make
What is this? Are we? If
No.
23 Skidoo is coming
Yeah.
out soon, then-
Gosh golly, zippity doo.
Now you're
Yeah.
cooking with
That kid's got some pep in his step.
Yeah, you got some pep.
both of you are the bee's knees. I can
Thank
tell you that.
You
but-
are the bee's knees on the other end of the spectrum, and there's
Yeah.
Like we're very
we're independent.
underground.
We don't have
doing
money.
it in your garage.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Whereas
do it
for you,
DIY. You know?
Yeah, there's like a big label and then the the indie label.
Let's
and
just
I think
hold on.
really, though,
Yeah.
like,
All right, wait a minute.
You have employees, whereas
Wait, do you?
It's really just us. You know, you
Yeah.
have to get a lot of licensing, whereas we're kind of
You do.
Yeah.
You're living the dream,
But
basically.
But you know what,
Wait,
Michelle? Just
hold on.
remember.
Okay,
this
wait a
is-
minute. Let's go,
That's not-
Jason.
Yes,
Yeah.
Jason. Yes.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've never done this where I've said for the year, like, oh, I'm gonna take the year off and not do production or voiceover. Like it's always been a thing that has been there and has created this stuff that I love. And there's a financial aspect as well.
Yeah.
But it's never been since 2005, since kicking this thing off. It's never been like, okay, next year I'm just going to retire and live off of Biff Bang Pow.
Right.
I'll be good.
No,
so,
yeah.
So
there's
I
the heart for both of us.
Yeah,
Definitely,
exactly.
We're making
So-
the thing we
It's a passion.
love.
So it's
Yeah.
like, Mattel and Hasbro and those guys, and Billiken and
Right.
Sakuda and whoever else.
Yeah,
they're,
you know 'em.
They're way
Yeah,
up
that's a
in it.
whole nother
Yeah,
level.
A whole other
of-
level.
Right.
So we're in this netherworld of, I mean, we're not even NECA. I mean, NECA is pretty.
They're
you know,
big.
I know Randy really well, and his family, and he's great and everything, and they're really, they're even on a different level. Sort of. I mean, we're in the same sort of,
Yeah.
we hang out, but we're not. But it's just, it's different. And so you guys want to get to. You obviously don't want to get to like a Mattel Hasbro kind of level.
We kind of like where we are.
You like where you are, and you want
Unless
to do,
someone threw a giant pile of money at you.
Sure, why not?
You would
But-
have
I
your
would love
money
that.
mitt that you would catch that with, right?
But no, it's. I get what you're saying because
Yeah.
it's like it's kind of like. How do I
It's
say this?
weird, isn't
There-
it? Like
there
it's
have been-
hard to say what we're.
There have been
we know
things
what we're trying to say.
There have been things that have been brought to us that have been like, it's coming out in a year, it's going to be huge, and it's got this and this behind it. It's going to be, and we've kind of gone. I don't think we can do this. I don't-
it's not your thing.
It's not our thing,
Yeah.
or it's going to be the risk involved, or what this might lead to, whatever. Like we're good doing what we're doing. We got to keep going, and we can't just do whatever we want.
Yeah.
So it's the art versus
There's
commerce.
the
thing,
trade-off.
what it is.
Is
It's-
exactly
Right.
it's
Totally.
But see, that's
yeah.
where I see the link between
Right.
you guys. Because they
Yeah.
both came from a place of loving these things.
Exactly.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
no
starting
question,
from a
no
place where you go like, look, I love this. I collect these kind of things. I want to get into this so I can see more of what I like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's interesting now about like we were just at Monsterpalooza, and there's all these guys. There's the guys who are selling all these mass produced toys. Then there are the guys who are like got a 3D printer.
Yeah.
And they're doing their own thing, or they're
Yeah.
doing a vinyl figure, and that's what's beautiful. And it's the part that always frustrates me when someone, the people that kind of go, "Oh, what is this bullshit? This isn't fine art."
We definitely get that a lot.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, right? But that's wrong. It is
Yeah,
fine art.
yeah.
It's our art.
Yeah.
And anybody that talks a bunch of shit about science fiction, you go like, well, could you come up with these ideas? Could you sculpt that figure?
But it's also too. I mean,
Yeah.
like if you're looking at like Star Trek, I mean, it's like that probably had a large influence on cell phones. So it's like
Without a doubt, yeah.
When you kind of
Yeah,
play
totally.
down sci-fi, I mean, it's like, well, they're predicting a lot of the future of technology.
Oh yeah, I mean,
So-
yeah.
The beginning of sofubi actually was Barbie, believe it or not.
Is that right?
America gave Japan, they wanted to manufacture Barbie there. So Mattel came and said, here, make Barbie. And it's made the same way these vinyl toys were made.
Is that right? Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
To the best of my understanding. Is
Right,
that correct,
right.
Larry?
Yeah, and I just wanted to point out something to you, Michelle. There was another small company that started out in their garage, and it started out by two guys. I think one of them was Steve Jobs. Maybe a little company called Apple. I see big things for you because what you guys have here is so cool. It's so creative.
And look what
so
they did to the
detailed.
Apple industry.
I think you're.
You can find them in any store now.
I think you're thinking of the Beatles, and they broke up not long after they formed Apple.
yes.
Okay, yeah.
Not
But you see, this is what happens
really
when
a
you hang with a
great
bunch of comedians.
story.
Yeah, but your stuff is really, really cool, really detailed,
Thank you.
and
Yeah, just the
it's
fact that you-
and creepy
you
and
read-
And so
monstrous.
we'll put up some pictures of these,
Yes,
but
yes. And
the character is called
explain-
Johnny Innsmouth.
Yes.
Based off of
Innsmouth with an I. Innsmouth.
Yes.
Yes.
Genius.
Based
Yeah.
off,
That's genius.
Based off of the fictional H.P. Lovecraft town.
And you're singing my song, my
Yes.
friend. Yeah, I mean, I love that
Huge
stuff.
Lovecraft.
Now,
Yeah,
what would you,
yeah.
Kevin? How would you describe like what is this creature?
Well,
Sorry. I'm sorry. That was
kind
cheap.
of a big amalgamation of sea creatures. You got
Right.
crab, squid, barnacle thing, fish man.
Multiple eyes, which is
Multiple six
a
eyes, which
kind
is
of a Lovecraft
nod.
staple.
His
Yeah.
original Cthulhu
Right.
had 6 eyes.
But what's
Yeah.
really
This is
cool is the
beautiful.
whole
Thank you.
stomach. The
These are great.
stomach
And
And there's a
area.
mouth in the stomach,
There's
which
a mouth. I
is
love
awesome.
that feature.
oh my god! Anytime you put a
relate to him
mouth,
that way.
it saves time.
It does.
Because
Kind of a Metaluna
Steady
mutant
one.
inspired claw.
I love
Steady.
a classic monster.
Steady
all
with the
of
mouth
that.
thing.
I mean, it's all been a huge influence since I was a kid.
But I mean, like back to what you were talking about, Larry. Kevin is very, very humble. So I'll kind of be
Not the
his
Kevin
hype
I know.
man. Yeah,
I was gonna say, who are we talking about?
that guy's an ass. But I'll kind of be his hype man. I mean, when I first met him, and I fell in love with him very quickly.
as we all did.
Yes,
Aw.
he's mine though.
Wait. You guys are together?
Yeah.
Yeah, in our
Kevin, you
illustration
bitch.
class.
I thought we had something going earlier tonight when we were talking in the kitchen.
He's a tease.
Michelle wasn't
You're
here.
only a mistress.
She wasn't around.
I'm wife material.
That's true.
Look, I'll stick around for the show, but don't call me.
You're hurt.
Okay?
It's
sorry.
okay.
I'm out. Anyway, I'm sorry.
But
Go on.
anyway, Michelle.
Sorry.
But when I first met Kevin, he would just be quote unquote doodling on some lined paper, and
Right,
it
right.
was like, that's a finished illustration.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he's really he's so talented. It blows my mind. He'll just be in my room, and on the back of a receipt, he'll draw like a finished monster that he literally just thought of out of thin air. And
Right,
it's
right.
like really original. I've never seen that monster before. I don't know where he came up with it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, to see him doing his dream of, making toys, something that he's a huge collector of and loves, it's really cool because you don't get to see a lot of artists do that.
No.
Live
Right,
their
right.
dream, pursue it.
No.
Yeah.
To follow it all the way through. I mean, that's like
Right,
always
yeah.
the thing.
Like,
It's like
I-
to finish it. Like I don't know how many things I'm like, I'm gonna write this one man show.
Exactly.
Lights come up. I want a sandwich.
No, but when I heard when you were talking earlier, I thought of this, and if you don't mind, if I
Sure,
can
please.
for it.
Yeah.
take the
Go. Yeah.
floor for
Go
a
for
second.
It's all yours.
And again, not to get really cosmic and
Get
whatever.
cosmic.
Please
I
do.
love
This
that.
this
Get
this
cosmic.
thing this life that we have.
Yes.
This is all a blip. It's all
True.
and I'm not trying to be flippant about the whole thing, but it really is sort of
Yes.
You go down the rabbit hole long enough, you're going to go, if I got up tomorrow morning or I didn't, it wouldn't make any difference to the nature of the universe or whatever.
Yes.
So with the scope of what you sort of have to deal with while you're here, you sort of kind of go, well, yeah, I'd love to have millions of dollars and I'd love to whatever, and I'm not going to stop. But today, right now, this moment, this thing right now, because this is never going to happen again, and then tomorrow might be good or bad or whatever. To me, it's like, except for ugliness and meanness and whatever what's obvious that I'm about to say, whatever you do in this life, if you mean it, you have to mean it. You want to do that improv show that you're talking about, or you want to.
I've already given that up. But go ahead.
But you know what I'm saying? When you're doing it, you go, I don't know where this is going to go or what it's going to be, but I know I mean it right now, and I'm putting my heart into it, or
Right,
whatever
right.
it is.
Yeah.
May turn out, may not, whatever. But to me, it's always about whatever your bag is. If you mean it, then I always think you have a better chance than those that are faking it.
Yeah.
And then that sort of, they're day shoppers or whatever. But if you're there for the long haul and you're like, this is what I dig and this is what I want to do, and all the inspirations you talked about and all the stuff. It's like, then do that thing, and and most people would have taken it halfway and gone, yeah, what's the point? I'm not gonna. It's never
too
gonna.
much
You have to
effort.
fully realize it.
yeah.
Yeah.
There were days I woke up just going, "What the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, who do I know that's doing this?
You've just described my 22 years in Los Angeles.
What the hell am I doing?
buddy.
Those days when you wake up and you go,
Oh yeah.
why does my mouth taste like a coal mine? I fucking live in L.A. and the window was open when I went to sleep last night. Oh yeah, that's right. I think I have black lung. Yeah,
But Kevin,
It's-
like you're taking this step now where you have a factory that is mass producing these.
Well, how did
right?
you
I mean,
find the factory?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
I've been researching this process for years, and even I didn't know. But miraculously, I got an Instagram after I graduated, and
What's that?
it's this great
The
place.
photos
Yeah.
on
No,
it.
what's
You
no?
put the
What's
pictures
graduated?
on it.
Sorry, what does graduated mean?
Graduated from CSUN, Cal State Northridge.
Oh right, got it.
okay.
Sorry.
Illustration, all good.
I thought it was a cutting instrument.
Yeah, it can be.
So you got an Instagram.
I got an Instagram. I started networking with people, and I was like, sofubi's really neat, and I've always wanted to do it. I wonder who out there is doing this, and I just started following people. And there's tons of people in America doing this, and in
this is
New
huge.
Zealand
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
London and
Right.
China, Singapore, Japan. They're all doing it. All these independent artists that aren't doing licensed things. I mean, there are doing licensed ones, but most of them just
Comic-Con is that end of that.
Yeah.
That far
Oh,
end
yes.
of Comic-Con.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
is
tons
Right.
of people doing that.
Right.
Yeah,
What was
yeah.
it? Was the Kaiju Big Battle, the big battle, Big Battle, the big
Kaiju Big
Yes.
Battle.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
they used
yeah.
to do these bagged
Yeah.
That's exactly
figures. So it was like
Yeah.
That's the way they sell them in
and they-
Japan,
and
old
like
school.
maybe 200 pieces,
Yeah.
300 pieces, and people were
Right.
going
I
crazy.
saw a Judge Judy where I swear somebody at
serious?
I'm gonna
some
stop you
point
there.
somebody was suing somebody else because one of their roommate stole a bunch of their stuff, and included amongst that stuff was some sofubi.
Oh my
And-
gosh, that's hilarious.
I would
and
sue the crap
yeah,
out of
she was
them.
trying to explain to Judge Judy why these were so expensive,
Yeah.
and of course Judge
That was-
Judy was like, "What are your toys? What are you? What are you
Yeah.
Right.
No, they're expensive. They're valuable."
Right.
It's like a painting.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
like a print.
Right.
Of, it's
you can
a
have
print of
painting
art
go
that's
for $1
three-dimensional.
million.
Right. And just so you know, Matt, when you first started telling that story, I thought you were going to say, I saw a Judge Judy figure.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
That I
No,
really
no, no.
wanted.
Believe me.
I actually
Sofubi
thought
Judge
there-
Judy
yeah,
figure.
I actually-
Where is that?
I thought the same
Probably
thing.
out there.
There, I've seen a Sofubi,
Judy Innsmouth.
Yeah, there's a Sofubi Donald Trump going around right
Oh,
now.
I'm sure.
no, I can't. I'm
sure.
sorry. I
So
can't.
We're not going to talk about
Too
anything
soon.
else.
Don't
Too
open
soon.
that door.
So
Do
Kevin,
not open that door.
So you
I'm
were
not
able,
going anywhere. I'm just saying, people make this stuff, and you're like, wow.
so
Yeah.
So Kevin, you were able to find a factory someplace in China or something.
Yeah, in China. We
And so what
tried-
did you do? Did you did you send them this one piece?
I
or?
went through about 10 different factories, emailing and messaging,
Uh-huh.
and you're lucky if you get one that speaks English,
Okay.
let alone
Right.
one that'll do it. It's called slush molding, where they do it internationally, where you, from another country, that you send them your sculpture or whatever, and they make it and send it back to you. A lot of them don't do that.
Okay.
Right.
And a lot of the factories in Japan, you got to know the people at these factories, because these aren't big factories that make 10,000 plus units. These are like three guys in a garage
Right.
that
Yeah.
make,
We're talking like mainland China.
it's
or
out of
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Hong Kong.
Okay,
That's
I'm
where
sorry.
that's where we went.
Okay.
But also, when you're shopping around for the factories, depending on what you're kind of able to do, some factories have a minimum, so like
Right.
they're like, we need at least 200 figures or
Okay.
500. So depending on what your goal is, you have to kind of be careful of who you're going with. And you also don't know, like, how much communication are we going to have? We're trusting a decent amount of money with you. We don't talk to you every day.
Yeah.
Our factory was really great. We were in contact with them basically every day.
Yeah.
They sent photos. They asked if we wanted this or that.
Right now, if you look at it's like the Wild West out there. You don't know what
Right.
you're going to get.
Yeah.
Just tons of these little independent factories in pocketed areas, and you don't know if they're great or bad. They're going to rip you off.
Right.
So you got to do your research, and I talked to a lot of other guys who've done this, and
So is that community pretty supportive when it comes to
Oh,
doing
The
this?
artists themselves, yeah,
So open.
we all communicate and say, hey, try these guys out, or hey, don't go to that guy,
Right,
go to this
right.
guy.
Okay.
I can
That's
get you
good.
better
What's
price
really
here.
cool though is they don't act like, oh, it's a trade secret. They will answer your questions. Like if
Usually.
you say, what factory are you using? They'll tell you. How
Right.
much did they charge you? They'll tell you.
As long as they
That's
know,
really kinda
yeah,
cool.
if
Yeah,
they
that is
know
cool.
you're serious about it, and you've
Right,
got
right.
some stuff to show, they're all, they'll tell you everything. And
Yeah.
we've all spread all the secrets around to each other, and it's just been great. It's a nice little community.
How does this work when you have a company that you've decided you're going to go with? I would think that what I would want is I'd want to see like maybe, I don't know, 25 or something made and see how those look and then go, these are great. Let's go with the big order. Is that how it works?
So they'll get your figure. It's a long process. So they'll
Yeah.
get your figure that. Well, I made one in resin, but in order to make it in vinyl, they have to recast it in wax. So they'll make another. Yeah, they'll make another mold
Okay.
and then cast it in wax, and then from there they
Yeah.
dip your wax into an acid bath with copper, and they electroplate it for about 3 weeks.
I did that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
Fire Island. I did that once on Fire Island.
Worth every penny.
Dipping your wax in
Yeah.
copper.
You learn a lot
I
about
did that.
yourself.
It was
No,
on a
it's-
menu, and I went, "Yeah, I'll take that one."
Yeah, 3 weeks later you get
3
it.
weeks
yeah.
later, you finally get it. Yeah. Sorry,
But that seems like a long process.
It's long because copper apparently is the only material they have that's strong enough to withstand the temperature of molten vinyl
Oh, okay.
repetitively put into it. Yeah.
Wow.
it's actually vibranium. I don't know
Okay.
if you guys-
We went to a cheaper factory.
Yeah,
but-
you gotta-
Our
Wakanda-
You gotta shop
those
around.
Wakanda factory.
You gotta
Wakanda
shop around.
factories are, you can't afford that.
No,
You can't
I'm
get
just
near
saying,
that.
if you shop around, you can find vibranium. That's all I'm saying.
King
Sorry.
T'Challa.
Sorry.
I am the Black Panther. I make vinyl toys. So,
Okay.
yeah, back to China. So they use copper, not vibranium. So about 3 weeks later, your wax is stuck in this mold that's made of copper.
Okay.
You're never going to see that wax again because they have to blast the shit out of it to
Right.
melt it out of there.
Okay.
So that's entire. Your wax is gone. Some
Okay.
people only send wax molds, and that's it. Sometimes they're just gone forever.
So if they screw it up, that's your ass,
That's
right?
it.
Yeah.
You got to do
Yeah.
it all over again. So that's why I sent them resin. So if they messed up, they could do it again.
Smart.
But
Was that somebody? Did somebody tell you to do that? Like, or was that just,
no,
yeah.
I just figured if I'm shipping to China, I'm not going to send them my original
Yeah,
clay
Europe? Yeah.
because it's going to get messed up.
Ahead of the game.
That was like
Yeah.
insomnia, just staying up late at night.
Because I
Thinking,
sent
oh,
this.
wow.
You're worrying about everything.
Yeah,
right?
and I
yeah.
sent this thing, this is my first figure. I'm terrified. I sent this a week before Chinese New Year, and apparently the post office even takes a vacation for about 2 weeks. So, and I'm talking to the guy, and he's like, yeah, customs doesn't really work that well during Chinese. And I'm like, great.
God.
So, I was just sitting there for weeks going, is this going to get to these people? And,
Well, and like, what if it gets lost? I mean,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Their address, to handwrite their address, it's like 8 lines of
crazy.
information, street names, blocks, numbers,
Yeah.
zip codes.
Is it like Japan, where Japan?
It's just a block.
yeah, where it's like,
Yeah.
they don't. It's real vague.
But on top
Yeah.
of that block, it's building 3, floor 8, room
Boy.
36, name, and then it's like every
Living
building
room.
has a
Right,
zip
left
code.
of the tree.
Left
Yes.
of the tree, 4 steps this way.
Wow.
So there's a lot of risk to this and just unknowns, and that it's terrifying. But now that I know what to expect, and this factory I've had has been great, I'm
Right.
hoping to use them again for our next figure.
Yeah.
And
What's-
Kevin,
Totally.
what I just wanted to ask. So, and I realized since you have moving pieces, you don't send them a resin all in one piece. It's like you have to
No,
send an arm
I
to.
have to- I-
it's in pieces,
They
right?
Cut
they
it.
can cut it, but
You do separate molds for each piece. Right?
yeah. So I made separate molds for the arms, the little
1,
arms,
2,
the head.
3, 4,
Wow.
5
I made
molds.
one body, but when they got it, because vinyl has to get pulled a certain way, they actually had to cut the torso in half. So if you look at these figures,
Oh, yeah, right. It
there's
has
a line going underneath.
Right.
Yeah, so they can still modify from there.
Right, right.
But it's always best to cost effective to do it
But
yourself.
that's charming. That's really
And it's what you've come to expect from a vinyl figure.
I'm
the
with
idea
you
is
on
not
that. Yes.
you're not making it's not a Ming vase. It's
there's going to be
beautiful thing that
it
you
kind
start
of
with.
is though.
But no, what I mean is you don't
in its own way.
charming
the idea
vase.
is like you were talking about the painting of the early ones. It's like that's part of the appeal.
was-
like
Right,
the eyes
right.
over here and the nose. It's like
Yeah.
that's part of the
they're
what
charming.
The fuck? What is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Like, that's there's a charm. to
charm.
it, you know?
Well, it's like punk rock.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's very.
Punk
Yes.
rock.
Yeah.
What it was always hard to
Yes.
explain to people who would shit on punk rock is that sometimes less is more.
It was the DIY ethic.
Yeah.
It was
Right.
sniff and glue. The labels. The whole. It was
Right.
like let's just get this thing out
Yeah,
there,
it's,
and it's.
like a fanzine.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
These are sort of there's a fanzine vibe to it. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
So Kevin, like from this point now, what's the next step with this? Like, how are you going to start marketing, or where are you going to be selling this?
Weirdly enough, Instagram is a big place where a lot of people sell these
That's
things.
how most of them do.
They're,
Really?
Really?
They're done in lotteries.
What does
believe
this
it or not?
gram of instant?
How does that work when you say
how
the
does the-
lottery?
They,
What is
lottery-
that?
they
Ba-
sell
Go
out
for it.
so fast that
if you're good.
if you're good. Now, if you're well known, they sell out so fast that you basically have to win a lottery in order to buy.
So
it.
you'll send.
come on.
You'll send the artist.
Come on.
You'll
Yeah.
send them an email.
How do you like that,
Yeah.
Jason Lindsay?
It's to me. It's
You
I'm
jealous?
sorry, but it's like it's like going down Fairfax, seeing 500 people in line for a pair of sneakers.
Oh,
it's
it's
like
crazy.
It's
Yeah.
not. It's
yeah, right.
It's
get on board.
It's just
get
not
on
your thing,
board.
Jason.
Listen, the fewer you make, the more that it's
The more
whatever it is.
exclusive.
It's,
Yeah.
Sure,
Exactly.
sure. Like you
And
said,
yet-
if it's good, if
and
it's something
yet-
people want.
If nobody cares,
Exactly.
you could have
Yeah.
one of two that ever existed, and no one cares. The idea is that there's a fever that comes over some of this stuff that's like, they only made.
Yeah,
50. It's
you
like-
got to ride
Right.
that fever.
And I even have found myself at shows going, wait, what's the show? What's
Yeah.
this from? And they're
Right.
like, it's from a Japanese pilot that never got approved. It's Astro Boy's uncle, who's a chef at an ice cream parlor, and you're like, really?
I can
We
get a
would buy
meeting for
that.
that.
Yeah,
I would.
$750.
We would, James.
I'd be into it.
Heartbeat.
$750. Really? Because they're only 50. Okay, I'll
An
take it.
Astro Boy cooking show would be fantastic.
Now, James, you had something to ask?
Just to get this out of the way.
Yeah.
Because I know that already that this is like an idiot question.
no, please.
Now in the age of 3D printing, what if someone's like, well, I want to make my own vinyl figure, and I can go down the street and someone's got a 3D printer.
Yeah.
Why won't that work?
Actually,
it does
you
work.
can.
But there's a lot of elitists out there who like the handmade stuff,
They
the
want
hand
it.
carved.
They want it handmade, hand painted.
But if you
They
got a good
prefer
figure,
Japan.
it's going to sell, whether it's 3D printed or not.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's the appeal of the
it's the-
specific figure,
yeah,
right?
But it's totally. But see, I have 3D printed stuff that's great, and it's great for what it is, and I like that. But this is a whole different thing. I'm
There's-
telling you, that vinyl figure, the way it feels, the way it looks, the way it smells, just the patina of it.
There's an aesthetic to it that makes you kind of feel intimate with the other artists. Like this guy ran his hand, he put the tool here, he carved
Now
this.
you're getting
Right,
creepy.
You
right.
know, yeah. He licked this foot.
Yes, and then his lover
Yeah.
applied some paint.
All right.
Keep talking.
I mean, you used tools
Ew.
and
go
your
back to the
hands,
sculpture.
and because this is really articulated. This
Yeah,
is
it's
really
just a-
How many did you guys? What's the run? Like, what is the run going to be of this?
In total, we have 200 figures because that's all we could afford.
Actually, we have
Okay.
204. There's,
duh.
there's, there's,
I forgot.
duh.
You're an idiot.
Well, 4 of them are going to a very happy home.
Absolutely.
here at Monster Party.
Yes.
Yeah.
But we have 2
wanna do
clear. We have 1 red.
Clear?
Yep.
Let me go over
interesting.
this. Okay,
Yeah.
so they'd made a couple test pulls just to see how it worked. They made a clear purple one.
Oh,
They
nice.
made
It's pretty.
They made a clear one, which we're hoping to do a guts version of.
Oh, I love that.
And there's only one on Earth, so
Wow, nice.
That's my sweet spot.
Nice.
So Kevin, each of these that you brought, there are different colors. You've got a pink, a green, a black, and an orange.
these are our regular run that we
There's
ordered.
50
Okay.
of each
There's
color.
50.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
50. Now, are you going to paint? Is it just a solid color, or are you going to hand paint these, or what are you going to do?
First, we're going to do a giveaway on Instagram, and we'll talk about that later. But after that, for regular orders, a lot of these artists, they release a blank version without paint because there's a lot of us other artists who are collectors as well, and
They wanna paint.
we paint our own.
Right.
So,
Right.
so
Interesting.
we'll probably do, we'll sell 10 blanks in each color online.
That's what we're predicting.
That's what
Right.
we're going to start with. Hopefully people buy that and then paint their own.
Right.
It's appalling
Yeah, this is all
to Larry.
in
Please
theory.
help us.
Because can you imagine
Please buy
like
one.
the idea that you now have to take paint and put it on your figure?
I don't know about that.
See? Well, how well do I know you?
you know me pretty well.
From that point. Oh, you had something? Just
Oh no, I was just gonna ask. And again, this is not something I know a ton
No, it's-
about.
yeah.
Kickstarter. Like,
There's
yes,
people
yeah.
Some
doing
people
this.
Is this the
There's-
kind of thing that you guys would
I have a
eventually
few-
do on-
I have a
on
few friends
Kickstarter?
that have done Kickstarter. Just
why
to start.
why is that not for something like this? Why does that not sort of you do all the legwork,
Yeah.
the research you're talking about to find out what can be accomplished, and then
Yeah.
go, hey world,
Yeah.
here's
I
what we're
mean,
gonna do.
I think
is
frankly,
that
we felt bad.
I didn't want to fail, so I didn't
Yeah.
want everyone to know.
so
about
you
it.
just went, you know what? I'm gonna
I
this
got
first
this.
run. I
Yeah.
got it.
It's
I'm
like,
gonna-
it's like your
okay,
own little
that's-
personal
yeah, it was
project that you wanted to
It's
see.
like it's like when
personal.
you invite all your friends to the first time you do stand up.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
You don't want
it
them
could
there.
be horrific or
Right.
it could be great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How was
yeah,
that
yeah.
experience, Matt? How
Not
was
so good.
But yeah, Kickstarter, all that stuff, people do that, and I just
Is that
didn't-
something you would after this you would kind of go? That might be a way to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sort of-
if I got a name out there and I wanted to make larger, more expensive figures and needed a little help, I definitely would, and I'd make more original stuff. But I've also been contemplating getting into like public domain B-movie monsters, things like that,
awesome.
because I love that stuff.
And Lovecraft now is
Lovecraft
public
is
Yes.
public
Yeah.
But,
domain.
Yeah.
but I mean, there is something sexy about that where you go. I mean, that's something we deal with all the time too. Where we go, whatever. If there's something that's going, it's a year and a half, 2 years into the license or whatever, and we go, oh, we're thinking about doing this. Or if it's just design stuff, and you go,
right.
let's try this.
Yeah.
We reach a point where we go, we can't just risk going, well, let's just make it.
Yeah.
2,000 people will show up.
Right.
We can't do that. So we go, hey, world, here's what we're thinking of doing.
Do you
You
want
get on
that?
board enough,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
we
To
can.
test
we
the
can
Sounds
water.
like a really good idea
because
of a way to.
you end up with a lot of stock that you're going. I thought they'd be here, but they weren't. It's that balance.
Right.
Of,
It's
like,
what are you gonna,
Right.
So it's the kind of to me that this is like kick this off
And-
and then go.
yeah.
You know what? Next time
It's like a
it
focus
so
group
much.
almost in
Yeah.
a
It is.
sense.
It is
yeah.
kind of. And again, I don't know enough about Kickstarter. I'm not.
Yeah.
It still sort of boggles my mind where it's like I don't know what's
You
her
just
name.
wanna help
or
me out,
well,
yeah.
whoever goes, I'm going to make an album and it's going to cost $1.5 million.
Yeah,
and then it's like
Yeah.
we earned $6 million. Hey, we're gonna have Evian
Yeah.
on the tour, and you go, whoa! You said 1.5.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just? So I still don't quite get the whole thing,
Right.
but
Yeah.
Right.
it seems to work for a lot of people
It does.
making independent figures. And
If
action
one was to make a series of vinyl figures based on Woody Allen movies,
Ooh.
or Robert Altman, James,
James, what's your dream?
Ooh.
Your dream.
what's your
figure?
dream figure? If you were
us
gonna,
what you
especially a
want.
vinyl figure,
Yeah.
what do you got
Woody
in
Allen
your
from
brain,
Ants.
in your noodle?
Your deepest, darkest
A
fantasy.
vinyl figure. Now, come on, this is where we live.
It can be Stardust Memories.
Could be
Don't let-
anything,
Don't,
yeah.
don't hold
No,
back.
Dream big. Dream big.
Yeah.
Don't hold back.
I would want a Stardust Memories vinyl.
Well, maybe Altman himself. That would be pretty cool.
That's good.
They've made a Subaraya figure of
See?
just him standing there.
That's true.
Of
Is that-
Altman?
That no, but
I could
that
do an
to me,
Altman.
that,
Oh, super.
Yeah, of Subaraya. Yeah, that,
that to me, that
It's
to
an
me
Altman
is
costume.
yeah.
You can modify it.
It's a rubber
Just like
costume
these
of-
figures, you can paint them to
Yeah.
make them look like Altman.
that to me is the essence of a lot of this.
Yeah.
I remember this was 97 or 98 or something. DJ Shadow and James Lavelle did an album called Uncle. It was the first, like, it was its collective where, like, Tom York was on it and Badly Drawn Boy was on the track, and it was this album that they made. And when this thing came out, I don't know how I first heard about it, but James Lavelle is a big toy guy. and he had the label or someone make these versions of the character on the cover of the album, this sort of spaceman kind of thing. It was called Science Fiction, I think was the album. These were really hard to come by. I don't know how I found one eventually. This is like almost like early days of eBay kind of thing. Like I didn't even know if I
really?
found
Wow.
it. Yeah.
Wow.
And I eventually got him on the phone. I was working on some show in Hollywood, and I don't know how I pitched it. And I was like, it's a great idea to like maybe do a thing about making toys.
I love it how you always
go ahead.
become a girl.
Sorry,
when you're
I'm just
pitching.
going back 20
Probably the
years
key
or
to your
whatever.
success.
It might be.
Yeah.
There was a charm like, oh, it's the kids
Flash
here.
him a little.
Give him the assignment. Go ahead, honey. And like,
Right.
okay, thank you very much. And I got him on the phone, and he was talking about why he loved toys so much. Like he's got a sample on that first album, an audio sample of animated Boba Fett from the holiday special.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
On this, if no one has got this,
Wow.
Science Fiction by Uncle, Unkle.
I'll check it out. Yeah.
From 97,
Yeah.
whatever it was. I eventually got a hold of these figures, and I got him on the phone, did this interview with him, and he was saying, this is the stuff I love, but he tried to combine it with the aesthetic of Japanese toys and sort of urban vinyl stuff at the time that was happening. And I was like, yeah. And the other figure he did was Marky Mark. Was sort of was a sort of super deformed version of
my
Marky
God.
Mark that
Wow.
he put out as a promo in conjunction with this Uncle figure. And then Super 7
Wow.
this past Comic-Con, and I talked to them when I saw this thing hit the internet, I was like and he's like, we're doing the 20th anniversary of Uncle. We're doing these 4-inch figures.
Oh, wow.
With a single, a vinyl single, and the whole thing.
That's incredible.
And I was like,
Gosh.
who remembered this shit? And they made a green one and a blue one. But I mean, that to me was the essence of everything you're talking about here.
Is it
was
the-
like,
Is it the type of thing where if you knew what this was, if you knew what the album was and you recognized this figure, that's great. But even if you didn't, an audience who is into this urban vinyl thing would go, oh my God, that's such a great design.
I think you could Google it right now and look this thing up and go, oh, that's cool. It's like this kind of a scowl with a big pointed head and pointed arms and pointed legs.
feel like I
with
know
a,
this.
with a gun, and he's sort of he's the uncle alien or creature, whatever it is, and you'd look at it and go, oh yeah, it makes sense. You'd make like a sort of something like this for this, and they made these variants this year as like 4-inch figures. But this is going back 20 years when this album came out, and I was like, God, no one is doing this. Like this is
Yeah.
there he is.
Oh, how cool.
Look at all the versions that have been made of him.
Let me see that there. Oh yeah. I think I have seen that. Yeah.
So Sean just found us some pictures of the toy.
They're
on the
really cool.
internet, so
There's a
they're very,
tiki
very
quality
interesting.
about it.
Yeah.
It's a weird, and he's kind of a space, and then
It's like a
then you,
mashup.
his idea was to combine this visual with this soundtrack, what this album was.
Wow, yeah, it's really combining kind of mediums. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
a really
Very
amazing idea.
Richard Ashcroft from The Verve was on that record, and that when you would put it on, and should you at the time have any substances you wanted to
Substances?
imbibe
How
you
dare you.
played the album, and then took the figure out, you could have a great weekend.
Well,
Take the
that's,
finger out?
That's
The figure out of the packaging.
Oh my God.
So-
What's wrong
Okay.
with you?
So Kevin Michelle, so
There he
so
is.
the figure.
That's him.
Yep.
Yeah, look at that.
Very
I
interesting.
love that.
Look at that
Cool.
guy.
Yeah.
So guys, so you're getting these figures made. So the next question is, so if somebody wants, you're going to start putting it, you're going to advertise or whatever. But how much does something like this cost? If I'm like Joe
Good question.
consumer
Yeah.
and I see these things, I go, that is really cool. Do you guys have an idea as to
We have an idea. We're still getting some calculations in, but for one of these blanks with packaging, with a header that's painted by Michelle, with our
Nice.
sticker and a pin, it's going to cost for a blank about $60.
ballpark? Okay,
my.
that's great.
That's
Ballpark
great.
is good.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's in the
65.
ballpark.
That
of
is-
that's a
what-
ballpark.
That's
Reasonable,
great.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but I mean that's in the neighborhood of what. If you're walking through a show or something, you see
Totally.
that like
Sure, yeah.
50,
Totally.
$60. Like
Yeah.
that's in the
Frankly, it's a really good price because basically on our first,
It's actually
figure-
lower than a lot of.
It is.
A lot of
It
them.
is.
Yeah.
And the reason behind that is on our first figure, we're an unknown name.
Right, right.
We don't have any recognition yet in the community. So really, I mean, we're just covering costs of material.
Right.
Got
We're
it.
not
Right.
even covering
Yeah.
the time we've spent or anything like that.
What's the name? Though? We talked
Sea
about.
Demon Vinyl.
Say it one more time. I'm sorry.
Sea Demon Vinyl.
Sea
Cool.
Demon
I like
Vinyl.
it.
I love it.
Sea
I love
like
that,
the
yeah.
ocean.
Like the ocean,
Like the demons
sea.
of the
Wait,
ocean.
can we talk
Innsmouth.
about how'd the name come about? Like,
Believe it or not, we went to a random word generator on.
come on,
That
Google.
works.
No.
There were some doozies that came up. What was
Nice.
it? Like Atomic Donkey? Or
I thought it was going to be.
There
You know,
That's my Instagram name.
we were in Duluth.
Is that where you came up with the fuck stick one?
That's what we call my aunt.
but
Random word. I didn't use a random word generator
but we
for Biff
we,
Bang
we
Pow.
really couldn't.
That was
think
heart
it-
and soul. On
It's
that
tough
thing.
to come up with a
That was-
name.
that's
that-
there's a
We-
meaning behind that.
Is
We
there?
were
What is it?
agonizing over it.
Biff Bang Pow?
Yeah.
Oh my God! It's the idea. I love the whole mod scene from the
Sure.
mid
Yes.
'60s.
Yeah.
You know, the Small Faces, the Who,
Absolutely.
the Beatles, the
Yeah.
Kinks, the whole thing, and the pop art scene. The whole, the marriage of the soundtrack and the clothing and the speed and the shapes and everything
The
else.
bicycles.
And the bicycles and the LSD and everything else. and Biff Bang Pow was a very very pop art.
Sure.
Sure.
A la Batman,
Batman
Yeah,
and Wittgenstein and
60s,
everything
sure.
else.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And it was also the name of a B-side single, a band called The Creation, who did.
Yes.
I know you. I knew you'd know The Creation. I knew this. The fucking Rushmore song.
Yeah,
It was
Rushmore
big.
song, yeah.
The B-side of that, I think, was
Yes.
Keep going.
No, that's all. That's all we can afford. I don't even think we can afford that.
It was called Making Time.
Making
by the,
Time, yeah.
band The Creation,
Yeah.
very psychedelic mod band. And the flip side of the single was called Biff Bang Pow. With,
Wow.
with
Okay.
2 Fs.
Shouldn't have said
Oh,
that.
So I went,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
right.
that
We
makes sense.
represent the creation. We'd like to speak with you for a moment.
But we only use one F.
Right, one F.
Oh,
Right.
That's right. That's right. Well, now, but
But I like Sea
And
Demon.
actually,
I do like
do
a Sea
too. I
Demon's
love
cool.
it.
Sea Demon.
This is the
But
O
that's because
in
you're
the
our
target.
people. We go around because we get asked by
Everyone's like,
regular
"What the
people, and they're
hell
like,
did
"What?
you just say?"
What the fuck is Sea Demon?" And
what
I
then-
like Sea Demon.
What does Popey mean? What does
No, no, but-
Bullmark
but
mean?
they don't-
also,
they
it
don't
also
know
goes
these
I like
back,
Sea
things.
Demon.
It also goes back to the Shadow over Innsmouth. though.
Exactly.
Exactly. That's
Because
what I thought you were going to
creatures in
say.
Any of these, most of my inspiration for monsters comes from whatever crawls out of the ocean. Because
Yeah.
if you watch a lot of these monster movies, that's where they come from.
That's
That's
really-
true. That's where we all came
That's
from.
where we were goo at the
I
bottom.
hate
of the
to create a
ocean. Yeah.
controversy.
But I mean, that's kind of how we narrowed down the name. We really wanted something kind of ocean related.
Right, right.
I love it. I think it's great.
You
I,
guys,
I love it.
I mean-
It doesn't seem like does not seem.
Thank you.
Seemed
They was
intentional.
thrown
That's
into a
good.
generator.
That's
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
It's like,
Well, but
We threw you off.
I love it. I love it.
Honestly-
But it's like, how many times have you gone through a thesaurus online and when I'm looking for the name
For
of
baby
the thing.
names.
Yeah, right.
you guys have been the
You have
first
no idea how many
people
times I've done that.
to not give us a look and go, huh?
I love it.
You need to
I
hang
think
out
it's-
with
I
cooler
thought we
people.
did do
Yeah.
that.
I think it's great.
I only have 3.
No, I went with the random search center. I went. Yeah,
Huh.
Sea Demon is amazing.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that's
Yeah.
Thank
That could be a
you.
freaking band, a
That is-
clothing
no,
line.
that's a great-
Are you
yes,
kidding me?
yeah.
That's
Thank
a
you.
great.
As of now, it's
That's
our
great.
band.
I've just named my van.
Sea Demon.
Well, guys, I have to tell you, I am so excited to.
Are you closing the show?
Yeah.
No, I was just saying that.
I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
that's
I'm fucking.
It's
with you.
quarter to three.
I'm fucking with
And
you.
I've.
But I do
Mr.
love.
Toy Guy
Closing
over
the
here.
show.
Yeah,
I do-
see, he's singing. He's not
23
even paying
skidoo.
attention.
I do love that. I
And the
do love though when
ball
Larry.
cock is
Larry will
broke.
sometimes get this lilt in his voice where he'll like kind of whoa yeah, and it's like. But sometimes he's right.
It's kinda like-
I'll listen to
Right.
these episodes later and I'll go. I should have
Time
trusted
to
him.
wind down.
Listen,
It's
guys,
almost like he jumps in and goes, "Well, we've learned a lot today." So
Yeah.
let's.
Okay, and this is all very funny, Jason. I
Sorry,
really
I'm sorry.
appreciate you bringing
I keep
this up.
making
But I
jokes, I'm
am
sorry.
thrilled to actually see these right in front of me.
I love 'em.
and I
Thank
think
you.
they're
Thank
so
you.
incredibly cool. I can't wait to have you guys put these up online.
And it will be eBay, right? Is that where you're selling it?
Instagram.
And
For
he
now-
said
for now
Instagram.
but
Instagram.
we are working on a website as we speak.
Yeah, I
Oh, yeah,
actually
cool.
have a lot of it done. What we're thinking, it gets kind of difficult, especially once you're getting into like lottery territory.
Sure.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
probably have to do that through
Sure.
Instagram.
Right.
But
I was
when
going to say that.
Yeah, I mean, really though, Kevin, when I first met him, I knew him as an amazing illustrator. a lot of prints, a lot of ink work. That's really
Right.
a majority of what
Yeah.
he's done.
Oh, yeah.
Well-
it's gorgeous. The
Yeah.
detail, it
His
blows your
art
mind.
is right now in a bar in Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah. right.
It's,
It is.
Yeah.
It's sitting there.
If
I
for
love
for our listeners, if you go and check out our YouTube video, Monster Party Goes to Japan, you'll see this moment when we're in this Japanese bar. And
My beautiful man.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, Kevin does this wonderful picture
And it was
of
like,
Godzilla.
what? It was like
and
an hour?
It was just so great, and
whips out
and
this thing in an
everyone
hour.
There, everyone
Yeah.
there fell in
Yeah.
love with it, and it's posted up.
It's
on
still there.
It's
And
still
I
there.
I
It's-
can vouch for this because my wife.
Can you really?
Yeah, we went
Wow.
back to that place, and it's still there, and they remember us.
Because we've been
Really?
wondering.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We were wondering
Wow.
if we visited them again.
You guys are going soon, right?
Hopefully.
We're hoping.
Well, let me ask this. So let's say spring 2018. When can we see this? Is this going to be summer 2018 that we
Oh,
can
soon-
expect
soon.
sooner?
We're
Yeah.
hoping May we get these things
Yeah.
out.
Okay.
Because
Wow.
basically, one of the last things we're doing is getting the packaging together. I'm currently painting the header.
Cool.
In
She's a
school, I
wonderful
was a
painter.
painting major. So
Awesome.
it's kind of cool that I get to use that skill. So yeah, I mean, really, and with these figures,
And we'll
the-
put some of your paintings.
Oh,
if you
thank
have
you.
if you have
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
you can
send
send us,
stuff.
we'll put
Yeah.
it up
Great
on our
painter.
site. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, really, the headers are part of the collectability.
Sure.
It- It's
Big time.
important.
Yeah.
So whenever you're buying sofubi figures, a large part of it is the header.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And typically you'll at least keep the header, if not keep
you're
it
smart.
in the bag.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally.
Keep the header.
Keep the header.
header.
Keep
Listen,
the header.
There's one thing I've lived by. Just keep my whole life.
I'm
Keep the header.
I'm ready.
The header.
Yeah.
Just keep the header.
Yeah.
So
It's on my belt buckle.
So
right
let's
now.
say
Although,
let's say
Kevin,
It's
I
on
would
my
warn you
car
in
bumper.
future.
so let's say come
Be more
summer though.
delicate
Devil.
with other people's hearts. That's all I'd say. Okay.
So come summer though, if these all sell out,
I'll give you a free one.
that's all I'm going to say.
All right.
It come summer though,
I
if
don't want to
these
make it a
have
thing, but
all
just
sold.
We got you.
So come summer, these things sell out or whatever. So someone can go and check this website that you're working on.
Yes, yeah.
The
It,
C-
it should be up.
We have an email.
And what would be really cool is this will be your first round. Perhaps you're going to do something else down the road.
We
So this is a
definitely
good,
We're
Yeah.
just hoping to break even so we can make a new figure.
Cool.
fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah, basically what we're going to do is if we break even, we're just recycling that money back into our next figure.
Right, right.
So that's really the goal.
It's all just for the love of doing it. It's not.
Yeah.
God bless you.
Thank
even
you.
even if we end up homeless, we'll
We'll
keep
still
making
be
Well,
vinyls.
you'll never be
you'll,
homeless.
You'll always, yeah,
With
you'll
a
have a
vinyl
here.
house.
No, we have a very small patio that can
Yes.
accommodate some hammocks.
So it's
Thank you.
C
Okay, thank you.
Demon.
You're
C Demon
okay.
Vinyl.
C
You're all right.
Demon Vinyl.
We have an email info@cdemonvinyl.com. You can get on our mailing lists for when our lotteries happen, sales, things like that.
Yeah,
Awesome.
definitely.
Yeah.
Great. Nice.
Definitely give us your email. Message us on Instagram.
Yeah,
if you're
our
interested.
Instagram is just C Demon Vinyl.
Sweet.
Awesome.
Yeah, you can find us there too.
And Jason Lenzi, please, what would you like
shit.
to?
I thought I was sorry.
He was putting on his coat.
I was
and looking for his
putting on my
car keys.
makeup and getting ready to go to the clubs. Sorry. Go ahead. I'm back. Sorry.
What would you like to plug? Because you've always got something new
Biff Bang
happening.
Pow
Yeah,
is working on
what is there
something.
something
What can we expect
coming
at
up that we
Comic-Con?
can talk about?
Give us
What's
something.
your bag?
Well, we've got some stuff building for Comic-Con.
Sweet.
We don't want to say too much
That's
at this
that's
point.
okay. I
but
get it.
The idea is if you're going to Comic-Con, if you're there this summer, then just come to the
we're
Entertainment
there.
booth.
You will be there.
2343. Always
We're
got
gonna
something
talk to
going
you,
on.
my friend.
Come talk to us. Talk to me. Come up. We'll bring you upstairs to the the
Upstairs. You hear that?
Club.
Upstairs.
I've never been to the upstairs.
Where it all
Near a vibe.
Biff
We call it-
Bang.
It's called the
Biff Bang! Wow.
we call it the Captain Koenig suite. Come right up doing a little Landau tribute this summer. And
I want to believe that so
and,
badly.
no, we've got stuff going. I'm a thing, like sort of out there doing
You are a
stuff,
thing.
Cool.
and voiceover is always going on and
That's awesome.
other stuff.
Yeah,
and-
I mean, that's what we do. We're always
well, you
trying
do
to
voice.
keep.
Yeah.
You do loads of voiceover.
I'm always trying to juggle like 3 different things
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get it all to work.
Thank you.
But
It's-
you know what? I
it's-
want to say something about what you said earlier about, when you're talking about getting all spiritual. And that is one thing that I really I mean, I really do, in all seriousness, embrace in my life right now, which is in thousands of years, this is all going to be gone. We only have right now, and that this time is sacred. And this has been great. I mean, that's one of the reasons I think why we did this whole podcast in the first place, is to get together and have a moment where we can all hang out and laugh and have a good time.
Talk about the stuff we love.
You know, to me, that's my life meaning right there.
I'm down, man. It's gone in a blink.
Yeah.
So you gotta
enjoy it.
You gotta jump in.
And especially James. Like when I look at James and I see the joy that he feels, first of all, for Star Trek, for the whole Star Trek franchise,
Of course.
his loquaciousness.
That's a big word.
Oh my God, this fucker loves to talk.
Yeah, he won't shut up.
Yeah,
Just
He just
try and
won't
stop me.
I'm gonna say something. Not everybody can be Madman Murdoch on the A-Team. You need someone that comes in with some zingers.
Oh, yeah.
And he's got this thing that just all of a sudden,
He'll
and
get
it's
you.
suddenly it's a question that you go, no one's ever asked me that in my entire life.
Oh, yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you
yeah.
for asking that
No,
question.
that's what he
That's
does.
the beauty of the balance
Yeah.
of you guys.
He'd be a
Like,
great
it's-
therapist.
Yeah.
He might
You're
be.
the glue that holds this party
Yeah.
together, James.
I've always said that.
Yeah.
You are like the sage.
No, Matt, you're
Yeah.
just sniffing glue.
Well, that's always, you know.
On that note,
On that note,
question-
please get away from me.
This-
Please
This has been great.
stop talking about me.
Well, so
awesome,
let me
though.
let me just say thank you guys so much for the invite.
Thank you.
Matt.
Yeah,
thank you.
Big
Thank
you.
everybody
Always.
for
We gotta hang
Kevin
more.
and Michelle.
are you
Thank you,
kidding me?
guys.
Yeah, because I've
love
forgotten
that.
how much I love you.
Oh, bless your heart.
Truthfully.
Oh, that's very cool, man.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you so
I'm starting
much.
to love you.
Oh, thank you so much. Well,
I love
give
you
it
too,
time.
Jason.
He grows on you. He really
It goes
does.
on you for a while, like a fungus.
We'll
it doesn't
add
take
you
long.
to the lover
Thank
club.
you. But I just want to say thank you guys so much for inviting
Of course,
me along.
yeah,
I love
please come
talking about
again.
all this stuff. I'd come back
This has been
anytime.
very enlightening
Yeah.
too.
And
Nice to
I
see-
hope I didn't ramble too much.
No,
and,
no,
That's what we do.
Yeah.
You know,
We all ramble.
Thank you for all the interest in Biff Bang Pow. You
Absolutely.
know,
We've said it a lot, haven't we?
we have,
love
yeah.
this
No,
stuff.
so thank you. It's very cool. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I occasionally get people sort of, saying something at Comic-Con or like sort of going, "Oh, you're the guy that did," I saw you, Matt, a couple weeks ago, out front of the Creature Features
yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
and I was picking up that piece of art or whatever,
Yes,
and
you were.
it was a night gallery thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, yeah. And so this idea came up and everything. And you said something really, really nice to me.
Oh my God, what'd I say?
No, you just said,
You have
you
beautiful
just basically
eyes.
said, no. And frankly,
Goes without saying.
and frankly, he should have.
I think so too.
But no, he said, hey, man, I've got a lot of your Twilight Zone stuff. It just wasn't that. You said, hey, thank you very much. Thank you
Yes,
for making
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah, you've
And
brought
I was
me
like-
tremendous joy.
And I was like, damn, man, that's really cool to hear. So
That's the whole
you,
reason
We
we
don't take
do
this
it.
shit lightly.
You
no.
go,
Yeah, yeah.
you
For us,
know,
this
this
is-
sounds completely narcissistic. I don't mean it to, but you do. This is all very abstract for a long time. You go, you're at
Right,
home,
right.
you're
Yeah.
in your own universe, going, oh, this would be really cool to make. I wonder if I could.
A lot of
and
it's
then,
in your head.
a lot
Right,
of it's
in your
head,
bubble, yeah.
And then you kind of go, oh, look, oh, it's actually going. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Until you have the human contact of someone going, hey,
Right.
man. Great thing that whatever, and I think it goes back to what you're saying. Like this is what we thrive on.
This is it. Yeah.
This is it. It's like that human sort of non-asshole contact of like,
Right.
being
Yeah.
a jerk or whatever, just going,
Yeah.
hey, thanks for doing that thing. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, where did that come from? You know?
Yeah.
Right.
So
That's awesome.
thanks for
Thank
all of
you,
this.
man.
Very cool, man.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
Thank you guys for being
I
with us.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you,
You guys are
Jason.
dynamite.
This was
Michelle,
thank you so
Kevin,
much.
thank
This
you
was
so
a
much.
very,
This is
very good
awesome.
time.
This
and
is awesome.
and,
Right on.
Yeah.
and actually
Yeah.
very eye-opening, quite honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Educational.
Thank you.
And
Well, I know we've learned. I know we've learned a lot about James. that has been.
We always learn a little more about James.
That has been eye-opening.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
but he's the type of guy who, like, at the very, very last second of our show, will go, "I own everything in the world." He'll like,
Yeah.
he'll like throw some giant bombshell and then done.
Can I just throw it out there? If you were stuck in a trench, World War I, who would you want to be stuck with? Who's going to go get ammo?
Oh, why do you got to?
James.
Yeah, I would be the one to go get ammo.
He would go get ammo. I don't know if he'd come back.
No,
But he would at least make.
No,
but he'd
James,
probably come back.
James would come back not only with ammo, but with cocktails.
Yes.
Ammo and cocktails.
That's
And cake.
true.
Yeah.
I would come back with cocktails.
Yeah.
And,
Like, where'd you
perhaps
get
little
gin?
bowls with little crackers and
Little
Spicy
finger bowls.
James
wasabi
knows how
rice
to
crackers.
live.
Yeah.
When we went to Japan, James fucking lived.
I'm telling you,
big time. He
I've
brought
known him. I've known him for 5 minutes. I would.
Oh,
If
no.
it was,
That's the
if
guy.
shit was going down and the plane was like literally going down, I'd be like, "Where's James? Where's James? What row is he in?"
When we went to Japan,
go find
James gave us, before we even left, he gave us, I swear to God, and our listeners have heard this, but like, it's amazing. He gave us like full on itineraries to go to Japan where he had mapped out like day one, you know, and
Which is,
which was awesome.
and also, let's be honest, very fucking Japanese because
Indeed. Absolutely.
That's
fucking
true.
specific. But
Right.
no, I love that.
No,
I
it was
love
great.
that.
Keeping with
That's
the-
who I want to go to Japan with.
Hey,
we all need to go.
anytime.
We all need to go to
That's
Japan.
amazing.
Yeah.
We
That's right.
Japan trip to Monster Party. We
Very
gotta
very
go.
Whoa! I forgot. Can I tell 2 quick stories?
Go ahead. Sure, why not?
Sorry.
What the fuck?
Speaking of Japan,
Whoa.
2 things.
Jesus.
I went to Japan.
He's
Now you
not
know how
here.
we feel.
I went to Japan, and this is the only room I can tell this to because you'll love this. I went to Japan. My mother worked for an airline. For Northwest Airlines. Me, my older brother, and my mother. And I was like 14 or 15 or so, maybe 13. I don't know. The idea
Get
was
it
to go to-
straight.
the idea was to go to Japan and then go to Korea for like a whole 2-week thing.
Okay.
And the whole time, all I'm thinking is, oh, I can't wait to get to Japan. They're gonna have robot toys and Japanese. Oh my god, I can't wait to get there. And somebody had told my mother at the airline, like, don't buy anything until you get to Korea because whatever you think you can get in Japan, whatever you think you can get in Japan, Korea will have it and cheaper
That's
and
horrible.
better.
Oh wow.
So the whole time I'm in
wow.
Japan, I'm picking up robot stuff and every place I go, and my brother's going, no, don't get it now. We'll get it in Korea. Like, no, but it's here now. We'll get it in Korea.
A
So
single
what do you
tear
think
is
happened a
fine.
week after the Japan trip? We go to Korea. We got to Korea. There wasn't a robot in sight.
Just a Pulgasari.
There was nothing. There was nothing.
A Yongari, maybe.
And to this day,
Yeah.
to this day, I have never let my brother forget that all that shit I wanted to get in Japan for
Right.
a week
Just imagine.
Well, also, isn't it?
in the mid '80s.
Isn't it-
Right.
Isn't
It's the
it
perfect
kind
time.
of the special thing too? Is to actually buy it in Japan? You're in Japan.
Yeah,
You're buying a
right.
Japanese toy in
Yeah.
Japan.
He was misinformed, and it was a long time ago.
Right.
But one of my greatest memories, birthday, 79, 80, something like that. My gift was a collected Hulk, TV star Hulk. It was a collected Marvel volume. And I still have it, one of my prized possessions. It truly is. Baltan.
Baltan.
Oh yes,
Ultraman,
yeah,
Ultraman's
yeah,
enemy.
yeah.
Okay.
Arch enemy.
The company Arc made these die-cast and
Yeah.
plastic figures.
Do you know this,
that,
Larry?
I do.
That
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
apart. They
Yeah.
made Mecha Kong.
I have a couple of these.
Who's the
that one.
Who's the
Yeah.
robot guy with the things out his side of his head?
Jet.
King Joe.
No.
King Joe.
Yeah.
King Joe.
There's
Yeah.
Red King.
Baltan.
and-
Red King.
and,
I didn't know who this was,
The Mola.
what this was, where it came from. I just knew that there's not a word of English on the entire
Yeah.
on the packaging.
Right.
That's
And and I went, what the fuck? And to this day, I have and it came with a Gatling gun.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, that you had all these interchangeable
Yes.
things, and you put this Gatling gun with these tiny missiles this big.
That's right. You have all the missiles.
I have everything.
How do you like that?
I have the
With the box?
plastic
Wow.
With the
I have
box.
with the box. I have the plastic chest thing because when I was done playing with him, with whatever, because he had these claws and whatever I was playing with, I went, just go to sleep now.
And that thing's worth. That's worth like $500.
That's
Yeah.
actually-
Wow.
it's
I have.
very
He has
expensive.
never left.
yeah.
I have lived all over the country, and
If I had to kill anyone for something, It might be.
Now you know. Now
I
they'll know
now I
on
know.
Court
That's the
TV.
ultimate compliment.
Why did he break into it?
It's my version of double indemnity.
He recorded it a podcast like a week before. Like, what did he break in for? It was the ball tent.
Yeah.
He mentioned it on the show, and Matt couldn't help himself. He went mental.
Lifetime presents, or it would be like it'd be more like ID, wouldn't it? You know, like nerd murders.
Sci-Fi Channel murder
I'd watch
story.
that.
Yeah,
I would.
Well,
Anyway, I had to tell you that because I knew you'd love
Okay.
that.
We'll save that for
That's
another show.
awesome.
All right.
Could I add
never gonna make the cut.
one thing?
Of
Kevin,
course,
yeah, go
sure,
ahead.
why not? Everyone else is.
Sorry.
You had a great point, Jason, about life being temporary for us, and we're just a blip.
Very Jim
and,
Carrey of
and
you.
we have to,
Sorry.
make it work. No, it's great.
Oh, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, like, the things that you and I have created are non-biodegradable, and they'll be enjoyed.
Sure.
They will be
They'll
enjoyed,
be enjoyed by
for
the
next 1,000
no.
or so
That's a
years.
really
by
good point.
the race
true.
the race
In a
of
way.
the race of
There-
mutant
it's-
cockroaches
it's
will
true.
enjoy them.
It's true.
Yeah.
And the idea is
some civilization
The
might
doctors-
find this someday.
Yeah.
and
The
The
be
Dr.
like,
Zaius of cockroaches is going to be finding your toys and going,
was once a paradise. The flip
why
side
would
is
humans make a vinyl figure of some
from a show.
Innsmouth?
The flip side of that,
Yes.
and this is purely based on ego, is you go, well, no one's ever gonna know. Like I get to the point of going, are they gonna know who Rod Serling was in 50 years or 60
Yeah.
years or 100? Like
Yeah.
the fact that we had this thing off air where you're like, people don't know who anybody, you know.
Well,
So you
yeah.
go,
But personally,
is
if
it going to get to a
brings
point where
joy
Rod
to
Serling is
anybody, that's,
Yeah.
then you win. You know,
That was the whole point
Exactly.
where like, and selfishly, a la George Harrison making Life of Brian, which was,
That's
I
right.
just wanted to
That's
see
right.
the movie.
Yes.
I just wanted to see the film.
Who are you
it was
doing?
Like, it was George Harrison,
Oh, I'm
sort of, but it was grown up George Harrison, not Hamburg George Harrison.
Was that from the cartoon?
That was from the cartoon in the early '80s
That was the Paul
never got
Frees,
aired.
Paul Frees as George.
But the idea was his whole thing was like, I just want to make the thing. I just want to see it. And so you go, it doesn't, the idea that you can go, this thing that I loved so much, like
Yeah.
Twilight Zone, or like, and you go, I want this stuff. Like, I want this stuff on my shelf, or I want to
Right,
be able
right.
to go,
Oh, yeah.
and that was the hand to God. That was always the intent. Was like, if anyone comes along, that's a bonus. But the idea is, why has nobody done this?
Right,
Like
right.
this is the whole like. How come no one's ever made? And then you go, oh, do it. And yeah, you're right.
you
it's
win.
Gonna, it's
you know,
gonna.
you
yeah,
are.
it'll be here.
You are
Yeah.
an artist.
It's like the guy that did the Nike swoosh. You got
Yeah.
paid
Yeah.
$200.
Well,
Who the fuck is he?
Jason, thank
We
you.
are the champions.
Yes, we are.
My
thank
friend.
you. Thank you
That's
so
right.
much for
Of the
sharing
world.
that.
You're very
that
welcome.
with us.
Oh,
I
thank
really
you.
appreciate that.
I can't tell if
Thank
you're being
you.
sarcastic or you're being serious.
I don't know either.
That was a
I
very
can never
no,
tell.
We're right on the fence.
I'm very serious, but thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Even
Again.
that was questionable.
I know.
Sarcasm
he's-
or I don't know what that was.
and that's
But you're
the
welcome.
and that's
I'm
the
just gonna
joy
say
of
you're
him.
welcome.
That's
It is.
That's his magic.
It is. Eventually makes you feel insecure, no matter how long. You
I know.
spend- yeah.
He keeps you on your toes. You know.
No, but really, it's great. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
I roll.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. You're welcome. I think.
Well, I guess should we end?
Do you have one more?
One more story? Anybody else?
Zinger?
No, we just want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you guys are interested in what we're doing, definitely follow us on Instagram and feel free to message us if you have any more questions.
Well, if you want to
Cool.
do
We'd be
this
happy to
yourself,
help.
we'll tell you.
There you go.
We
Awesome.
should have our website out soon. And we will sell blanks first, but eventually we will have our own painted series coming out. So
Cool.
you can kind of keep an eye out for that.
We'll look forward to it.
Sounds great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you guys.
Is there an after party or?
Well, there's always an after party,
It starts right
and
now.
it's right here in my trousers. On that
I'm
note,
going home.
Time for a listener shout out. Shout out. This goes out to Strider Raven from Pennsylvania.
Oh my
Strider
God.
Raven. Cool name.
Is he a dragon rider from Pern?
Strider is a very talented sketch artist, and he's flattered us with a very flattering sketch of us.
Sometimes there's only one way to say it.
It's very flattering.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's Strider actually is also taking a cue from our president because he loves to tweet very often. So Strider, thank you for all the tweets in our direction. We appreciate it, and we appreciate your support. We're glad you like the show. Let's also remind our listeners you can find us on Facebook and YouTube at Monster Party TV. Our Twitter handle at Monster Party HQ. Instagram is also Monster Party HQ. We now are selling the Monster Party T-shirts
Dun,
on
dun,
eBay at long last.
The floodgates have opened.
The floodgates have opened. They are in assorted sizes, perhaps not all sizes, but hopefully your size. So check it out.
We will keep replenishing our
Yes,
supply.
yes.
It's a high quality shirt.
Oh, it's
Yes,
a very
it is,
high
yeah.
quality shirt.
It's made from unicorn hairs.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
No,
The best kind of hairs.
No,
How many stitches, Larry, in the shirt?
it's a
Yeah.
it's a very nice.
A Ringo shirt.
Shut up. It's a
Why are you
very
suddenly
high
speaking like
quality-
Astro?
It's a very high quality shirt.
And the
Very good bird.
Monster Party cap, of course, will still be available as well.
Cool.
And you'll get tons of Monster Party free swag, such as flyers and coasters and magnets and fun stuff like
Cool.
that.
Monster Party thongs are coming soon.
No.
Aprons on our eBay store.
Yes.
On our eBay
Yes,
store.
thongs and aprons.
On our eBay store, which is
Thong aprons.
Monster Party aprons, Monster Party store, which is easy to remember on eBay. So please, also, if you're listening to us on iTunes, please take a moment and write a review. We would love to hear from you.
We would.
Yeah.
And we also like to give a special thanks to our sponsors at Creature Feature. Creature Features, and as I said before, guys, Creature Features, they're leaving Burbank. They lost their lease. However, you can still, they're still putting together shows, and they're still going to be selling CDs and DVDs and all kinds of really cool things. All you need to do is go to their website,
Cool.
creaturefeatures.com, and it lists all of the art shows that they're going to have all around Los Angeles area, and they're also the people who are going to be doing autographs, and so check out creaturefeatures.com. It'll give you all the information.
Cool.
We also want to give a special thanks to Time Tunnel Toys. Time Tunnel Toys, located at 1583 Meridian Avenue in San Jose, California. And Joe and Sharon have an amazing store filled with vintage toys and black velvet paintings and records and magazines, Stife toys, all kinds of really cool stuff. And they also have the San Jose Super Toy Comic and Collectible Show. Every 4 months.
That's a good show.
It's a great antique toy collector show. You go to this convention, you're definitely going to find all the vintage toys that you want. You just go to their website at Time Tunnel Toys. It'll give you all the information.
Cool.
On that note, I am Matt Weinhold.
I'm Shawn Sheridan.
I'm Larry Stroth.
And I'm James Gonis.
Keep America strong!
Make toys, not war.
BBC fucking called Terry Jones and went,
We're about to, we're going to throw out your, do you want these shows?
anyway, what shows? It's Monty Python. We're about to fucking wipe them.
Wow.
Terry Jones went, don't fucking do anything. I'll be right there.
Do the English
And
voice
he
again. I
saved-
like that.
I love that.
Do you want these shows?
He fucking ran over and saved the entire series. If it weren't for that phone call, we wouldn't have Python.
Oh my God.
We think we've got some Monty Python.
That was a weird mix.
Bob's
of
your uncle.
Kermit the Frog and Cockney, and it was gross.
That's what I do. I do. What I do is, it's kind of like an Epcot Center of voices.
you.
I merge them all into one.
It's very
Take your pick.
attractive.
Fucking Epcot
Very
Center.
attractive.
Who makes the fucking Epcot Center joke? But
A
why
very lonely person.
not? Who was the mascot for Epcot Center?
The man with
Johnny
3
Epcot.
friends.
I have no
Oh,
idea.
Rod Serling.
Wasn't it like a dragon?
Wait. Yeah, yes, his name
He
is
knows. He knows.
hang on.
Was it Fuckstick? Is that the name?
No, it's no.
Fuckstick.
No. It's
Johnny-
Fizbit.
Johnny
It's like
Fuckstick?
it's like Fizbit.
It was spelled differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
No, Figment. His name is Figment.
But it was
Like
His
figment
name
of
was
your imagination.
Figment.
Was his name Fuckstick?
Figment.
I'm pretty sure his name was
Figment.
Fuckstick.
Sorry, I think it was Fuckstick
No, it was
when
Figment.
I visited.
Yeah,
Figment. Like figment of your
either that-
imagination.
I'm pretty sure it was Sad
Yes.
Cunt.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Okay, now guys, this is really great.
sister.
This
Let's
is
go.
great, but
Let's go.
Felt Fizbit.
I want to get back to our toy discussion.
Yeah, I know. I'm
okay?
sorry we were having fun.
Are we
Excuse
recording
me.
it? Did you record a
I
C-bomb?
record everything.
Shit.
I put microphones in your car.
Recorded you in
So-
the bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay. So
That's not what it sounded like.
Not yours. No, not at all.
All right, let's go.
It was pretty. Okay, so we're gonna do the lead in.
Yes.
And I'm gonna say. Okay, got it.
Here we go. Are you really gonna wear glasses?
No, I just don't know where to put them because I'm.
Why don't you put them in front? There you go.
That is the. I love it.
This thing and this thing. I'm like, oh,
That's in
that's
the blooper,
cool.
right?
Take this.
I love the excuse for putting on sunglasses. I don't know where else to put
I don't
them
know where to put
except
them.
on
Now
my
these
face.
are someone else's toys.
There's no-
Here, I'm gonna
there's
put
nowhere
these over
else.
here.
If you had a proper
I won't
sunglasses
forget them.
stand,
You're not gonna
then
forget
maybe.
them. You're not gonna forget them. They're right here.
I'll put this here.
I'm gonna go to these books and go, oh, look at these sunglasses. Who do those belong to? Oh,
What's that voice that you're doing
it's
now?
just.
Is that me?
It's my idiot voice. It's the idiot
doing
voice. It's
me?
like, oh no, I'm not doing you.
I think he was doing
Now,
it.
can you
didn't sound like me.
Can you put
No.
the toys in front of the people who brought them?
The toys
Yeah, let
Don't
the-
touch.
Make sure the cameras get
Do you
it.
need this closer?
Stop touching
Okay.
the toys.
Let's.
Okay, why don't
wait,
we-
What I want to know is where are your sunglasses?
They're right
I wish
here.
I knew. I wish I knew. I had them a minute ago.
All right,
Okay, this
here
is
we go.
great.
Here we go.
Now we
We're
do
gonna
have
start
other people here that need to speak.
See what happens?
Hey.
You add a couple more mics, and now you're fucking dead to him.
No,
Yeah, none of that even happened.
No, that's not
Biff
true. We're
Bang who?
old news. No, we're thrilled to have him here. We really are.
Yeah,
Okay,
well,
so
that's what she said.
Larry Strothbot going into condescension mode.
No, there's no kind
That was my robot voice.
I loved that.
Thank you. Okay, here we go.
here we
Okay,
go.
here we go.
All right.
Take two.
Before we go,
Oh, that was such a douche
the bathroom.
move.
Did you
Oh,
fix the
that
bathroom
was
thing?
such a douche
no, I'll
move.
do it.
Did
I'll
you
do
see
it.
that?
I'll do it.
Yeah.
I'll
He
fix it.
gave him a signal
Yeah.
and went
if you don't-
go, and then went
He like
douche
runs forever. There's a
you
thing.
in on something.
Go for it.
move.
No, he was.
30 seconds.
Yeah,
Can I just
clearly.
say, Larry was doing a good thing then, just now.
He's kind of fucking gaslighting
Yeah, he's
you,
a
man.
real good Samaritan.
I got news for you.
he broke
I've heard
the toilet.
show. I've heard the show. He's been gaslighting you for years.
This is abuse.
He's been going, Matt, go ahead, start the thing, and you go,
Yeah.
3, 2,
Right.
1. I was
You
like,
know
hey,
there's a-
Matt, do you know there's a leak in the fridge? I've heard the show. Okay, you're getting gaslighted, man.
Was still. It was like the
Yeah,
little
okay.
hole was open and
You
the
did
water
it?
was
You
going
did
in.
it?
So I
You-
fixed
so you
it.
fixed it.
So we're
Thank
good?
you.
So now
Thank you.
the water's going to
See,
go.
I know.
He has to
it's
mop
not.
it up.
He knows how to work things.
He had-
My
good?
wife normally fixes
You know,
everything.
I know how a toilet works.
Is he
Okay.
good? Is he good
No.
now? Is he
Huh?
clear? Is he clear to kick this off again?
Yes.
Wait.
Okay, all right.
Let's wait for it to fill.
Yes.
Finally.
So just need about 30
This
seconds.
is- so, listeners, for our bonus
Whoever's
segment
still
of
listening,
this,
You're not going to explain this.
Whoever's
Sorry.
still
I am
listening.
going to explain because people want to know what is that sound in the background. No, it's not Foley. I couldn't create a natural sound like that.
Oh,
That's
don't-
my own toilet.
Don't sell yourself short. Come on.
I am pretty good at the
I've heard
Foley.
your. I've heard your fawn in the woods.
Your Cockney accent.
That's pretty good.
You're like that.
Do
you're like
the
that guy
bramble.
from,
Do the
Or,
bramble.
like that guy from Police Academy. You
No,
can do
I was
any
going to say
sound.
I was going to say modern romance. I'm a,
Wow.
There's
Oh,
a-
yeah,
one
right.
of the
Wow.
greatest, one of the
Oh,
greatest
yeah.
Foley.
That is
Wow.
great.
There's a restroom downstairs and the little chain that when you.
That almost sounds like the beginning of a Sinatra song.
I'm just saying the little
There's a
handle that you
restaurant,
push,
there's a restroom
it broke on the
downstairs.
inside,
The toilet
and the little
is
chain
nobody in
fell
the
down.
place.
Is that
So,
Adele or
so to
Sinatra?
make the toilet function, you have to open up the lid,
ball
actually
cock is
pull the
broke.
chain, and let the water go through. And if you
Nothing but class here at Muster Party.
if you don't fix it, I mean, if the little chain fell into the little tank and it was making the little stopper
Yes,
ajar,
yeah.
and so the water's just going in and it's just constantly making noise.
And I thought I had fixed it, which of course means that it's even worse than it was before.
so I went in and
Are
I
you
fixed it.
insane? You thought you fixed it.
I know.
Come on.
I should not be allowed near anything.
You're insane.
Yes.
We could go on and on.